like to call our meeting to order. Feliz Cinco de Mayo to all of you. Thank you for being here, joining us today. And I would like to invite Supervisor Botello to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Ready, salute. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion to acknowledge certificate of posting?
So move.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. And we will now be doing our presentations and recognitions. The first one, I will invite Supervisor Botello to go up and present the mental health proclamation, mental health month, but we'll have a motion
I have
to
the
accept all of
tourism
them.
one.
Which one do you have?
The tourism.
I have mental health.
It's the opposite. I'm sorry. My fault. It will be Supervisor Munzer that will be doing the mental health.
And I'll move to, for endorsement of all of our proclamations.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, all the proclamations and recognitions have moved.
Yeah, I even have my lime green tie on, which is the color for mental health month. Yes, thank you, thank you.
How did you know and we didn't know?
We got the memo.
You got.
I have
you got the
connections.
memo.
I have connections.
Well, good for you.
He only reads the memos.
With that, I'd like to read a little bit of the proclamation, not everything, because we have so many today. But this is a proclamation recognizing May as Mental Health Month in San Benito County, whereas thousands of individuals and families across the U.S. have and will experience the symptoms of mental illness. And whereas mental health can affect the people of every race, ethnicity, gender, religion, and social economic group in our society. Now therefore be it resolved that the San Benito County Board of Supervisors, in recognition of the importance of eliminating the social stigma attached to individuals experiencing mental health and embracing the concept that individuals who experience mental healthness can recover, do hereby resolve that the month of May 2015 is Mental Health Month in San Benito County.
Thank you.
Nancy?
We'd like to say just a few words. First of all, I want to thank Supervisor Munzer for being brave enough to wear his lime green tie. And actually, I was informed that all of you should have received one. I wasn't brave enough to wear mine, so again, my commendations to you for doing that. We did bring it, though. And I want to introduce Nancy Abalera, our case management supervisor, and she's going to inform you of the activities that she has organized for May as Mental Health Month. Nancy?
All right. Good morning.
Good morning, Nancy.
Thank you for having us come today. I'll be very brief. I know you all are busy. You have a busy agenda. I do have an extra tie, if any of the supervisors would like one. It is up for grabs.
You know what? Let me have it.
Would you like it, Margie? Okay. Okay. It is a beautiful color. I wore my green.
It doesn't match my pink, but it's
I think
okay.
it's perfect. Thank you. I wanted to let the board and the audience know that, as was said already, May is Mental Health Month. We do set aside May as the month where we really emphasize mental health services, the importance of mental health services. And as was said earlier, our focus this May is going to be on stigma reduction. We are having an open house that will be Wednesday, May 13th at the Esperanza Center, which many of you may know is part of our mental health department. It's downtown, conveniently located on the corner of 6th and San Benito. That open house will take place Wednesday, May 13th from 2 to 4 p.m. We're coinciding our open house with the farmers market. We're really hoping to engage the community. We're going to have a booth that's set up, again, in conjunction with the farmers market. We will be having our literature. We're going to be displaying some of our client artwork. Park, our information, our calendars, which I also brought, our Esperanza Center calendars. We really want the community to know what the Esperanza Center offers. Our focus is on kind of the three pillars of mental health, which is wellness, hope, and recovery. We believe in wellness. We believe that there's hope for all citizens that struggle with mental health, and we strongly believe in the concept of recovery, and we see that every single day at the Esperanza Center with our young adults and our adults and older adults. It's a really exciting program, and all are welcome to attend our open house May 13th, 2 to 4 p.m.
Thank you, Nancy. Ellen, thank you. Thank you both for all you do. I sit on the Behavioral Health Board, and I see firsthand the work that is done at that level, and you're always so diligent about making sure that you provide the services that are necessary. Mental illness is an illness like any other illness that people may suffer, and that stigma has to go away so people can feel, comfortable to go in and get the services that they deserve to get. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Okay, at this time, I will ask Supervisor Pateller to go up for the National Travel Tourism Week presentation. Is there anybody here that would like to come up and receive this?
See that Paul, Ravella, and Bruce from Ridgemark are coming up to receive this, and this is a very important event in San Bernardino County. The National Tourism Week is May 2nd through the 10th, and representing a district that it has some real significant tourism sites, Fremont's Peak, the State Park in San Juan Bautista, and the Mission, of course, and of course San Bernardino County has a couple of great golf courses, along with the Pinnacles National Park and other attractions that we have in our county. That this is a real important, significant economic opportunity, a growing opportunity in San Bernardino County, and I'll read a couple of the whereases. Whereas travel has a positive effect on the county of San Bernardino and the national economic prosperity image abroad. It impacts business productivity and individual travelers' well-being. And whereas travel to and within the United States provides significant economic benefits to the nation, generating $2.1 trillion in economic output in 2014, with 927.9 billion spent directly by travelers. I'm not going to read the whole proclamation. My wife, she's in Sacramento this week on a food bank conference there, and she gave me a call this morning, and so maybe we should take a trip at the end of the week. And I think this ices it for me. I'm going to take a trip and tour something here in California and spend some money. And so I'm going to look forward to doing that myself. Anyway, I want to present this to Paul and invite him to say a few words about tourism.
Thank you, Supervisor Botello. Thank you also, Chairwoman Barrios, and the rest of the members of the Board of Supervisors. I'm Paul Ravella. I'm the immediate past chair of the San Bernardino County Chamber of Commerce and Visitors Bureau and the current chair of the 33rd Agricultural District. Over the past 2 weekends, we've had more than 1,500 people at the Bellotto Park facility for a kennel club event and a blacksmith convention. We are drawing quite a few tourists to this community, and we appreciate all of the efforts that the county, the City of Hollister, and the City of San Juan Bautista have made to draw tourism to our community here, along with the influx of money in their wallets that they bring with them. And so we appreciate all of the efforts of this board, and we hope to continue to draw that large of a group of people to the Bellotto Park facility and other tourism gems in the county. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Hi, I'm Bruce, and on behalf of the San Bernardino Business Council, I want to thank you for recognizing the National Week for Tourism, and that this is great for both our city and county for benefits that the tourists bring in money and jobs to our county. and that we're able to offer that without interrupting the lifestyle of our county by their visiting of our national, state, and regional parks. I want to thank the Tourism Committee, the Chamber of Commerce, and the Business Council members for their efforts to help promote our tourism, and really want to thank you as county supervisors for engaging in any kind of ideas and discussions that will help improve our region for tourism. Thank you.
Thank you. And we're all working towards the building partnerships so that we can continue this effort. Thank you for all you do. Okay, I'll be going up to present the award for the from the Child Abuse Prevention Council Annual Blue Ribbon Award, and I'll ask Jim to come up. And if there's anybody here from Fusion Elite, we would love to have you come up. I don't know how to do a tie, but oh well, this is gonna have to work.
Oh, that looks great.
If my husband were here, he could do it in a second. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, thank you so much for being here. Come this way the audience may see you. This is presented to you as the 2015 Blue Ribbon Award, and you are Fusion Elite All-Star Chair. I read about the write-up that you had for benefiting the health, safety, and well-being of children in our community. And if you have ever read the reason for this Blue Ribbon Award, it would make you cry. It's hard to, after I read it, I couldn't sleep that night because it is hard to believe that, that this kind of abuse does happen anywhere. And so I am so glad that you're concentrating on children and making sure that they receive the benefits that they should be receiving from the community and other, members of their families. And so thank you for all that you do, keeping them focused and giving them a purpose. So
You're
thank
welcome.
you.
Honored.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Here you go. You're
you.
welcome to come up.
Oh, we just want to thank you. We're very honored for this award. We try to keep a gym open for the kids to do something to do all year. And we range from anywhere from 20 to 200 kids in the gym. So we do it for the children, and so they have something and they can, give us their problems and have someone to talk to. So we appreciate and we're honored to receive this award. Say something?
Just to reiterate, yes, we're very thankful and honored to receive this. It is, a big deal, and part of running our gym too is, not only, a lot of people assume that, it's just for the kids that, parents that can afford it, but being nonprofit and focusing on these kids, we too try to, help out those as well that are maybe less fortunate with financial means. So just by opening the gym and having everything to these kids, it's just a real honor, and it's great to see a lot of these kids. Every day we get more and more different, and even from out of town, them coming in and just wanting to be a part of our facility. So it really is an honor to add this to our business and nonprofit.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next one is our National Nurses Week proclamation. If I'd like to invite Lynn to come up and Jim, and I will be presenting that. And the reason I chose to present this is because I have a daughter who is a nurse, so I am very close to this profession and really appreciate everything that you do. Yeah. This proclamation designating May 6th through the 12th, 2015 as National Nurses Week, and I'm just going to read one of the whereases, well, two of them. The nearly 3.1 million registered nurses in the United States comprise our nation's largest healthcare profession. Whereas hospital nurses provide direct care to the most traumatized, acutely and chronically ill members of our community, and clinic and home health nurses provide for their primary care and ongoing health maintenance. So this proclamation, we proclaim the San Benito County Board of Supervisors that we declare this week of May 6th through the 12th as National Nurses Week with the theme, Ethical Practice, Quality Care. Thank you, nurses, for everything that you do. You are certainly appreciated, not only in this county, but everywhere in the United States. So, thank you.
Chairwoman.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Chairwoman Barrios and Board, for honoring the nurses of San Benito County. Here are a few facts that speak to the value of nurses. of registered nurses. The public trusts nurses. In an annual Gallup poll looking at honesty and ethical standards within a range of professions, nurses repeatedly have ranked as the most trustworthy. The public knows that we will look after their best interests and the best interests of their loved ones. Registered nurses' professional code of ethics clearly states that our primary commitment is to the patient. Our mission is to keep patients and communities safe and provide them with the best care. Nurses are there for patients. The public may not think about the solid educational background of registered nurses or the fact that they're bound by a code of ethics or that we develop and follow standards of care, but they know we're the ones that respond and take time to listen and answer their questions honestly and completely, whether on the phone or at a clinic or a doctor's office. Nurses are first responders in times of crisis, whether it's helping at the scene of a car accident or providing care in an earthquake or a hurricane. We're often the ones neighbors and families turn to for advice about an unusual rash, a medication, a decision about hospice care. We're in the community, we're in hospitals, we're in schools, we're in clinics, we're in workplaces, we're everywhere. Nurses are cost-effective in tough times, tough economic times. More than ever, everyone's trying to cut costs, and healthcare is no exception. We've known for a long time that having more registered nurses can prevent complications and save lives, and now studies show that having more nurses on staff also saves money. We also know that nurses are incredibly resourceful, improvising in emergency situations or tough times while keeping patients safe. We do it so well that others count on it. Nurses are leaders. There's an old adage in nursing: when nurses see a need, we do something about it. Registered nurses not only take the lead in improving the care individual patients receive, but we also help shape policies on patient safety and well-being. We serve on boards and committees, on professional associations. Registered nurses also serve as leaders in government agencies, to include the armed forces, and intervene in times of crisis, conflict, and disaster. We can be found on city councils, state and local advisory boards, and in the halls of the U.S. Congress, using our healthcare knowledge and team-building skills to pass laws that will benefit the public good. And lastly, nurses have many faces. Although the public most likely thinks of registered nurses as generally working at the bedside in hospitals or in their children's schools, the reach of nurses is wide, giving our many areas of specialization and opportunities for advanced education. For example, some of the most cutting-edge research on everything from preventing heart disease to alleviating physical symptoms during cancer treatment is done by nurse researchers. Nurse practitioners are sometimes the only healthcare professionals providing primary care services in remote, rural areas or in low-income urban neighborhoods. Public health nurses, that's us, prevent and control infectious diseases through immunizations, investigation, and surveillance. They improve maternal, child, and adolescent health through community partnerships and healthcare provider education and oversight, and they advocate for individuals by linking them to healthcare. Today, I'd like to commend all registered nurses of San Benito County and throughout the nation for their noble and trusted work, their integrity, their compassion, their spirit, and their advocacy for the individual patient, for the community, and for the healthcare profession. Please join me in honoring our nurses on National Nurses Day, May 6th, tomorrow, and throughout National Nurses Week, May 6th through 12th, 2015. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'd just like to comment, this is just an example of the noble people in the community that we are able to work with, and we thank you.
Thank you, Jim. And thank you to our nurses. Okay, I have asked our senior board members, Supervisor Botello, and I don't mean in age, just in time that they've served, because I'm the senior here, Supervisor Botello and Supervisor De La Cruz to go up, and if I could give you this, please. Thank you, sir. And I will ask Denise to come up. Denise, though, unfortunately, we're going to lose her to retirement on Friday, the 8th of May. And so this presentation is for her and to honor her.
I'd rather say it by like someone that's good looking.
Well, okay, I'll be back. Okay, well, Denise, actually, this is kind of hard, believe it or not. You know, I was telling Denise this morning, and see her husband out right on the audience, and I was telling him that Denise to me is like a second mom, because I'll go meet with her 8 o'clock, 8:15, and talk to her and tell her our plans or what do we plan to do on our vacation, my wives and I, or we're going to take our grandkids or just places like that. And she'll always give me, you know, common sense reason, you know, you ain't going to win that one. Just let her alone. Just go with her. She's going to be happy. You're going to be happy. Forget about the arguments. So I go, well, I guess you're right. So I'll walk out. I'm going to miss that, Denise.
Thank you.
I'm gonna miss that. You know, it's a quality that is hard to find when you can build confidence in and talk personal life besides county government. And I'm gonna miss that personally myself. And the rest of the board members have a relationship with you that hopefully they would express how they feel about your absence in this in our beautiful county. And this is a small token from us. It's a certificate of recognition for serving over 21 years as a county clerk. And I remember the first day we came in, you were working somewhere else, you came back, and when, what's her name, Linda retired, you came in, and I go, I think I know her. And she goes, yeah, of course, at the water board. So it's going to be hard, but it's time to go to a better, prosperous. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Can I say a couple words before
Yeah,
you take the?
absolutely,
Oh, thank you.
absolutely. Better you than me.
No. Anyhow, we're all going to miss Denise. She's, you know, a very integral part of our small office here at the county. We're very fortunate that we work in a county that you get to know people very personally, and we wear many hats. And Denise, being the clerk of the board, she's the go-to person for any problem I had. Needed something on the agenda. My 700 forms need to be turned in, and great help, just a great help. And most of all, you are a friend of all of us, and probably previous supervisors. And it's hard to lose somebody like you. And you really made it a joy coming into the office and seeing your smiling face. And but maybe the next clerk won't be so accommodating to Supervisor De La Cruz with a coconut cake, birthday cakes, but that's all right. We'll let that go. But that's your nature. You did everything that you possibly could to make our lives a lot easier on the board, and we always appreciate you and think of you. So make sure you come back and visit too.
Absolutely.
But these flowers are for you.
Oh, thank you. That's very, very sweet. I appreciate
And hopefully
that.
they'll grow in your yard.
Yeah, those are beautiful. Thank you.
Good luck with your
Thank you so much.
retirement.
Appreciate it.
And Denise, before you take the mic, Supervisor Munzer, Supervisor Rivas, and I would like to say a few words as well. Supervisor Munzer?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, we up here, we get ourselves in trouble, and I think I seem to be getting myself more in trouble sitting next to my colleague here. But I would go upstairs, try to get advice from upstairs, from county council. I would listen, and then I would come back downstairs and double check it with you. And when I got your advice on it, then I knew I needed to take it. You have kept us out of trouble. I appreciate that. You know, whether getting the 700 forms done, getting stuff on the agenda, it was a pleasure working with you.
Absolutely.
And I have done everything I can to keep this moment from happening. I'm still in denial.
This is
but
true.
I do wish you the best.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Supervisor Rivas?
Well, Denise, you know, I'm going to miss you. We're all going to miss you. But what I don't want to get lost here is a sense of accomplishment that you're able to achieve as the clerk. You know, we have, you know, I'm not getting binders that are this thick anymore.
True.
It's all electronic. Our agenda is electronic. And I want to thank you for that, because you did so much to improve the office of the clerk, and you did it essentially with you and another employee, which is amazing. You guys are significantly understaffed, and so I really appreciate, you know, the enormous amount of accomplishment that you were able to achieve as a clerk, and that's what I'm going to miss, aside from, you know, your friendship. You know, because there have been times when I've been supervisor where no one talks to me, and you're the only one, and I appreciate it.
We'll always be friends.
But we talk about getting into hot water. It's happened to me in the past a few times. But I appreciate that, and you know, I certainly wish you the best in retirement.
Thank you very much.
Denise, your shoes will be really hard to fill. And Supervisor De La Cruz said it well, the trust and the confidence that we have in you, it's hard to replace that, because in your position, we have to be assured that the person that sits as the clerk of the board, that we can trust you and have that confidence, and we certainly have. So you will be missed. You deserve the very best. I hope that you do everything you've always wanted to do, enjoy your family, future grandkids, vacation, all of that. Like I said, you deserve the very best, and you will be missed. Thank you for everything that you've done.
Thank you. I've immensely enjoyed working with all of you. It's been a pleasure. I started working for the county in the clerk auditor recorder's office right out of college, and ended up as clerk of the board, which I've enjoyed most of all. I truly love this job. And along the way, I've been fortunate to work with some wonderful county employees and board members, of which you all are that club. And I'm happy to be retiring from the county where I started. I started my career. But now I'm looking forward to traveling with my husband and spending time with family. So I just want to thank you all immensely. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up is Supervisor Rivas, if you could present the National Public Works Week proclamation.
Okay, so this is something that we do on an annual basis, and what I wish this proclamation said was national effort to fully fund public works throughout America. But unfortunately, here, you know, we're here. This is more symbolic than anything. We certainly appreciate all of our public works employees and what you guys do. Unfortunately, we've had the discussion here the last few weeks about the fact that we need money to improve our roads and, you know, and to improve a lot of things that affect our quality of life in San Diego County. But as a board, we do recognize the week of May 17th through the 23rd, 2015 as National Public Works Week. So thank you, and if you can let your employees know that we are absolutely appreciative of everything they do, and we will do our part to scream off the top of our, you know, lungs until we get some more funding in this community. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. We have the annual poster, and we'll have that displayed in the lobby. That's always great artwork signifying the many contributions that Public Works do make across the country, and especially here in this community. You all came in today on roads. You used the water to go through and brush your teeth. You took a shower, and sewer systems work. You know, we have pieces in making all that happen here in the county, not as much as the city does. But today, you know, we have crews out mowing along our roadways to keep the fire danger down. We're out with graders out to keep the shoulders and brush off of the sides of the roads as we get ready for the fire season. We're out patching potholes. We're getting residents booked to use our 2 county parks so that they can celebrate with their families. We make the Little League happen on Saturdays. So there's a tremendous contribution from the department and the staff of the department to really make this county a great place to live, work, and play. We contribute to economic development day in and day out, and we would love to do more. And, you know, part of, I think, as we go through and develop our economic development strategies and bring businesses here, it allows us to invest back into our community for this important infrastructure. So thank you from the department staff for recognizing their contributions, and see you at budget time.
Thank you, Joe.
Can I make a suggestion before you go down? Instead of starting mowing in South County, can you start mowing in the west part of the county?
Well, you know, we got to follow the weed crop cycle. We follow it around.
Yeah,
Joe, I'm
thank
still
you,
waiting
Joe.
for 2 weeks, Joe.
You're
And
giving
Joe,
me a name.
Please thank the staff on behalf of the Board of Supervisors for everything that they do. We do truly appreciate. There's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes that we may not, even be aware of, but we know that it's getting done, and it's getting done by very dedicated staff.
And I do want to look for an opportunity to bring some of the staff and like maybe the road crew in to the board to actually, for them to hear that directly and to celebrate the work that they do. And so I want to work on that. It's kind of a busy season for us right now, but we'll find an opportunity on a little bit slower agenda to do that. Thank you.
All right, very good, thank you so much. Okay, the next item is public comment, and at this time, we should have had a proclamation for the San Benito Health Foundation. They are celebrating their 40th anniversary in a couple of weeks, and so with your consensus, I will present them with a proclamation the night of the event, and then we can make it official on the 19th of May when we have our next board meeting. So I'll ask our CEO to put that on the agenda for the 19th, and so they will have a proclamation at their event. But I'd like to invite them up just to say something about the event coming up on the 15th of May.
So, good morning and thank you. So we have two events coming up. 40 years, that's a long time for a community health center. And we were one of the first community health centers in this region. We're small but mighty. And there are many people in the community that still are with us in the community that were part of that. So we've been going through some interviews and some grassroots discussions as to how to celebrate this event. So we have two celebrations. One is a dinner. We wish we could invite everyone, but it's limited. And we wanted to acknowledge there some of the people that were involved and some of the families that were involved in the initial conceptualizing of the community health center. And we'll have a larger community event on the 20th at the clinic. And we invite the entire public to that. It's going to be a fun event. It's a fiesta to celebrate our community, and also there'll be fun activities, a scavenger hunt. So people can learn a little bit about what the clinic was back then and now, and there'll be food and music and so forth. So I invite everyone to come to that event, and thank you for acknowledging us, and we'll be back the 19th.
Okay, thank you so much.
I would just like to say a few words. It's very touching for me because I was born and raised here in Hollister, and 40 years ago I was, 8? So I've been working for San Benito Health Foundation for over 9 years. So I've been, it's very touching for me. We consider ourselves a patient-centered health home for the community. So when we say that, many people don't know what that means, but we explain it to them, and it's medical, dental, behavioral health, WIC programs, so many services that we offer, and we take pride in that. So I'm thankful for being part of this community for so many years.
Well, we thank you for being part of our community and providing the service that you do. Thank you, and we will see you at your open house and hopefully the reception as well. So.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll open it up to other public comments. Do you have any public cards?
Judy Johnson. Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Judy Johnson and a resident of Hollister. First, I want to congratulate you on the proclamation you did for tourism. As a whenever I can go traveler, I know the importance of being able to see firsthand good support at the local level. You feel safe, you feel welcome, and it's fun. And that leads me to the reason I'm here today. Your support is so essential. And I want to bring to your attention the fact that we have a pus-filled pimple on the face of our landscape of our community, our county, and the gateway to our largest city. I'm referring to the former medical marijuana facility on Highway 25. I have no idea what's going on out there, but from the looks of the concertina wire on every visible surface, I have to wonder, do we have an ISIS training camp in our county? What in the world is going on out there? As a tourist, I can tell you that if I were coming into the gateway of a city and I saw something like this, right around and go back, not come in. I've come to ask you to use any means possible at your collective disposal to rid our community of this atrocity, whatever it is. Thank you for your time. I hope to see swift, discernible achievement as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Any other cards? Okay. Any other speakers from the public? Please come up.
Sorry, I didn't get this in advance. Please forgive me. Marty Richmond from Hollister. I'm sorry Denise is gone. I wanted to, as a certified member of the Peanut Gallery, and we're in short supply today, I wanted to thank her personally for acting as the tweener between the public and the board in many cases, and keeping things organized and helping the public along. And also want to mention, we also are losing Jerry Johnson at the city, as many of you know, 30 years. And I wanted to give them some short advice from someone who's been retired for many, many years since they're retiring. I found out yesterday that they're going to invite Jerry Johnson to be the first Grand Marshal of the horse parade, and I wanted to tell Jerry and Denise that that's the way it is. One day you're very important, the next day you're in the stables. Sincerely, I want to thank them both, because I understand, I believe I understand as an outsider how important they are to your operation. And I understand from my side how important they are as liaisons to the public. They represent the board well. They handle difficult issues with a smile. I found the clerks to be extraordinarily professional, well-trained, tolerant, and they will take whatever time necessary to make sure things are done correctly. I think that's an enormous feather in their cap as professionals, and in this case, it's two individuals. So they have my thanks, and had we had the full peanut gallery here today, everybody's off doing something, I'm sure everybody feels the same way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marty. Any other public? You may come up.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors, members of the audience, and folks watching at home. I just want to apologize in advance because I will be trying to do this a little more regularly. My name is Reed Sanders. I'm the District Representative for the California State Senate, and I represent Senator Anthony Canella's office. I'm just here to announce myself, let everybody know I'm available for any state concerns, any needs. And for the record, I'm going to give out my name, number, and office address. Should you have any state concerns, feel free to reach out. I'm always available. My office is in Salinas. I'm a Hollister resident, I should add, San Benito County, lifelong. But my office is, I'm based out of Salinas in my office at 369 Main Street, Salinas, California, Suite 208. The office number is 831-769-8040. But your best method of reaching me, and thus the senator, I'm going to give you my email address, and that is just my name, reed.sanders@sen, that is samedwardnora.ca.gov. www.gov. Thank you very much. Have a great day, guys.
Reed, thank you so much for giving that out to the public. Okay, any other public comments? Okay, we'll move on to department head announcements. CEO Espinosa.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, we have one announcement coming out of our planning department. We have Byron Turner, our interim planning director, here to give you an update on the general plan.
Thank you. I just wanted to remind everybody that this week is the last week for comments on the general plan environmental document. The public comment period closes at 5 p.m. on the 7th, which is Thursday. So right now we are collecting comments as they come in, not too many, which is good at this point, and that's the reason for that is because the consultant listened to the comments and reviewed them the first time around. So the general plan itself and the environmental document reflects what the comments that we got in the first time around. So I just wanted to remind everybody to get your comments in if you have any. Otherwise, next time we'll have something more substantial for you regarding the general plan.
Thank you, Byron. There's a question from Supervisor Patel.
Yes, thank you, Byron, for stepping up and reminding people that we're moving on with this general plan and the comment period. It's very important to make sure that it's very visible and transparent to the public. I had a phone call this week, actually. Is the general plan draft available in the libraries in written form, or is the only way to review it is through online?
Right now, has only been made available online, or we have one copy in the planning department office. I can see what we can do about getting it distributed a little wider.
Yeah, if we could get a
Paper
couple of copies in the libraries and maybe even the San Juan Library, and don't forget, I know the Aromas Library.
And they have been given digital copies, but to save costs, it's a considerable document that we haven't, especially in color, but I can see.
Yeah, some people are kind of not that comfortable reading a document that large, but if we could get a couple of copies in the libraries anyhow, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? CAO Espinosa?
Yeah, Madam Chair, as of Friday, I know that there is a copy out here in the 4A area. I'm not sure if it's still there, but it should be there as well.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Batella, will that satisfy the hard copy request that you can direct them to here? Then this way we don't have to put another one out?
Perhaps in the libraries at least.
Okay, the library is essential.
At least,
okay.
yeah.
Very good.
Thank
Right.
you.
Thank you, Byron. All right, any other department head announcement?
Yes, there's one more announcement. We would like to actually pull item 31 from the agenda, and we'll be pushing that item to our May 26th special board meeting when we discuss budget. And that is all of the announcements that we have, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. All right, board announcements, and I'll start with Supervisor Rivas.
I have no announcement.
Okay, Supervisor De La Cruz?
Shoot. Can you come back to the end, Madam Chair?
I can do that. Supervisor Munzer?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The only thing I have is by way of the...
Microphone, please.
Sorry. Comes by the way of the Monterey Bay Air Pollution Control District. The American Lung Association released its annual statement of the air report, and San Benito County historically, along with counties such as Riverside, Sacramento, San Bernardino, San Diego, San Joaquin, San Luis Obispo, used to receive an F rating. We are now up to a B rating in the high ozone days and an A rating in the high participal pollution days. So our air quality is improving, and the work of the air pollution control is having an effect. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Good information. Supervisor Batella?
Oh, that's good, because I never thought our air was that bad to begin with. But anyhow, yeah, that's a real important note, especially with having a national park in our county and hoping to have a lot of visitors, enjoying the beauty of San Benito County and not worried about the air quality. So that's significant. I just have one thing. as I mentioned earlier, my wife gave me a call this morning, and she reminded me that today is the day to give to your charities in San Bernardino County. And it's really important for all of us to, whatever charity that is, to make that contribution today, as it's a 1-for-2 benefit. $1 donated is matched by Silicon Valley charities to our county charities. And so I'm certainly, after this meeting, going to make a couple of contributions to my local charities, and I encourage everybody else to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Good information. And yes, that is, you go online, I believe, for that
Yes.
giving, and I want to say that it's called South Valley Giving, but San Benito County is part of that, will be recipients as well. Okay, Supervisor De La Cruz, are you ready?
Yeah, Madam Chair, on April 23rd, with the efforts of Enrique Arriola through the Human Health Services Department, they were able to do a town hall meeting at the vault. Boy, we had about 40 to 50 people who attended the meeting, and it was very exciting because it was a free-for-all discussion roundtable with members of the community, issues of homelessness, mental issues, housing, government reaching out to the public, how the public gets involved in the long-term planning of our community was discussed. It was very educational, and I got to give kudos to Enrique for organizing this town hall meeting, and we look forward to it. We met after and we discussed some strategy in which we're going to have more series of town hall meetings, but this time we're going to tailor it down to specific discussions, and I believe the next town hall meeting that we'll have with the community will be on housing issues. So I really want to thank Jim, Enrique Yola, for doing a great job. And Madam Chair, I don't know if every dad in this world can do this, but I actually did it on Saturday. I actually officiate the wedding of my daughter's wedding.
Wow.
And it was tough, but I had to go. Somebody asked me, so how you feel about losing a daughter? And I said, nope, I didn't lose a daughter. I just gained another voter.
Spoken like a true politician.
That concludes my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor De La Cruz. I have two announcements. CAO Espinosa, myself, and Jim, we attended the Community Corrections Partnership meeting yesterday. Oh, Ellen was there as well, and anybody else? I don't want to miss anyone. But we have great representation. Our Community Corrections Partnership is as a result of AB 109 realignment funds, and we're always trying to figure out how we deal with the population that is now part of San Benito County that is no longer incarcerated, and the services that we need to provide. And we are now in the process of trying to plan a day reporting center for these clients. And there's a great need for something downtown where they can get a multitude of services. And so that is in the planning, and just want to make sure that the programming that goes in there is also, we've set up two committees, one to look at a facility, the other one to look at the programming that will happen in that facility. So there are great things that are happening in that arena, which will go, serve a community that is in great need of wraparound services when they leave their either prison or jail and are back in our community. So great efforts are being made to that end. The other announcement that I have is that the County Superintendent of Schools is planning a community-wide event, and it's about substance abuse among San Benito County youth. And it is called Take a Stand and Be Above the Influence. We know that that drugs are prevalent in our community. How do you address them? Young people are getting affected by this. Families are suffering as a result of this. And we want to make sure that there's an awareness. And these are the topics that are going to be discussed. First of all, what drugs are prevalent? What are the signs and symptoms of drug use? What can I do if I think my child is using drugs? Where do I get help? Next steps, how can I be a part of a comprehensive anti-drug campaign? So those are going to be a very powerful presentation. It'll be held at the Veterans Memorial Building on May the 20th from 6 to 8 p.m. I recommend that the community get involved. This is a community problem. This is a problem that we all have to be aware of and all be a part of helping to address it. So, again, May the 20th, Veterans Memorial Building, 649 San Benito Street, here in Hollister, from 6 to 8 p.m. Okay, we'll move on to consent items. Are there any items, anybody from the public that would like to pull any items on the consent list? No? How about the Board of Supervisors?
23.
Item number 23. Any others? Okay, item 23 is being pulled for discussion.
Motion to approve.
A motion and a second to approve. The remaining ones, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item number 23, Supervisor Botello.
I just need a little bit of information as far as, you know, we're, guess the rate of cleaning is going up a little bit at the public, the DA's office. Seems like a pretty significant increase from where they started. Is this something that we should maybe go out to bid, perhaps?
So the question, for a reminder for the board, is going through the budget process over the last several years, we've really scaled back the level of service we were providing. Basically, in most facilities, it's restrooms 1 or 2 times a week, so very low levels of service. As you see here, for the DA's office, we were providing it, I think it was like $56 a month we were paying to go for cleaning out there. Let's see, yep. So you can tell a pretty low level. They've asked for a higher level of service in their offices. And so my staff went through and talked with the contractor, and we had built into the original contract added services. It's working out to the $200 a month. We are on a separate track, though, looking at should we go and raise the level of services, since we've kind of starting to work our way out from the bottom of the economy and the budget. And so with that, we would be looking at going back out to bid, because we have done several small project cleaning quotes putting out to bid, and have gotten some better pricing from when this was originally bid several years ago. We're very happy with the contractor we have, but we do think there's some other parties that are in the marketplace. So it's really a matter of us working up our capacity and getting some other contracts done. And that, so my guess is after the fiscal year would do that. I don't know that I can get it done beforehand to get that procurement process done, but we will go back out and ask for different options, and then we can decide what we really can afford with that. But right now, it's still a very constrained, service pot based on just dollars available.
Yeah, and public needs to know that our offices, for most part, are being cleaned by our staff that have other official duties that, other than cleaning, you got to have a good work environment and so forth. But if we're be looking into that, we should also consider a little bit better maintenance of the public areas as well, and raise it all in unison as best we can. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Supervisor Munzer?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just want to say that I agree. I think it is important that we look at the janitorial services for all the buildings. I know the money is still tight, but if there's anything, sometimes this chamber, it's almost an embarrassment sometimes. So, yeah, definitely we need to look at that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And Joe, it's Supervisor De La Cruz, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe that I totally support Supervisor Botello's position on this issue. I'm almost at the point I'm probably going to vote no on it. I just feel that we need to revisit this, and with some of the comments my fellow supervisors said now, maybe it's time for us to bring back on staff and to have someone who can clean, this building and the other building. I just cannot support the increase because I actually know other people, actually some personal family friends that do this for business, and I'm just not going to support it. That's it.
Okay. And Joe, I know, as I read through it, really what this is just this department has chosen to step up the level of service. The cost really per hour stays, it's my
Right.
understanding, it stays the same. They were paying $56 a month to have minimal work done in their offices. And they have chosen to take part of their budget, up to $2,000 per year, to get a greater cleaning, service. And so I'll support it because this is the choice of that department that feels that there's a need for that kind of service with no higher, no increase on the hourly, just increase on the level of service. So if only the toilet was being cleaned before, now the sink and the floors and the carpet will be added to it. So that is where the extra dollar amount comes from.
Right, is there actually things that today's staff are doing throughout the county? And so one of the ways to look at this is you have staff that are at a higher wage doing work that have been able to get contracted out, or even in the past when it was county staff doing that. We kind of traded up, but it was recognizing there were less bodies here in the building, and where did it make sense to squeeze? That was one of those trade-offs. Now that as demand's increasing for services for what those higher paid people are doing, it makes it harder. I think it is a part of a recruitment tool of trying to go through and bring talented folks into the county. It's one of the challenges. You walk in even to the restroom out front here. There's some days that gives me pause. I bought some odor fresheners that are sitting in the car to go through and hide away in there. Things like that it does set first impressions, and I think we really need to go through across all of our facilities, make sure that the public really recognizes we're here to serve them, and then part of that is to make sure we're able to get great staff to come work for us and respect them.
Thank you, Joe. Any other comments? Any comments from the public on this item? Okay, I'll bring it back for a decision.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve this item and look forward to evaluating our level of service throughout the entire county.
I second. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries. 4-1. Okay, we'll start a regular agenda with item number 29. CEO Espinosa.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, this item on our agenda is going to be presented to you by our management analyst, Sarah Fontanos. She's going to be requesting your board to approve a sample letter in support of H.R. 1838. So, Sarah?
Good morning. So it is just that. This was previously H.R. 1766, I believe, in the last legislative session. It has been brought forward again in the 15-16 session, and this time it was just more of a proactive approach, which is why the letter is in such a draft form, to have something prepared as it's hopping through different committees. I believe currently it's in the House Committee of Natural Resources. I did draft a letter that focused more just a very simple economic benefit, tourism, allowing people specialized in the area of recreation to handle those types of programs for us, rather than developing our own. So it's completely up to you. Again, it's a proactive approach. I'm not sure where it's sitting now, but it would just be a sample letter to have to forward on, showing your support for it.
Okay. Any questions, comments? I think it was a great letter. I thought that maybe it would be good to put some of the history in there, but it may just muddy the waters. You have new people sitting there now, and it really, for us, it really now is about the economic part that we would love to benefit from. So I'm okay with that letter.
Okay.
And I think what I would like to ask is that we put it in the intergovernmental to ask San Juan Bautista and the city of Hollister to also draft a letter like ours, so that it can show the support from the other cities, from the cities in the county. Okay?
Thank you.
Comments from the public on this item? Okay, I'll bring it back for a vote.
I'll move per staff recommendation to direct the staff to actually write the letter and find the
Second.
appropriate people to send it to.
Did you say second, Supervisor?
Yes,
Okay,
madam.
there's a first and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries
Thank you.
5-0. Thank you. Okay, item number 30, CAO Espinosa in regards to PG&E.
Yes. Sometime last week, had a meeting with PG&E representatives, Eric Daniels, and they brought up together a great presentation and awareness to administration. And I recommended them to give actually our board presentation and discuss basically next steps and what we want to do. So I'd like to invite them up right now. There's a PowerPoint presentation that we're going to go ahead, or they're going to go ahead and present to your board. They have some handouts here we can pass out to the public.
If you could give those to the clerk of the board, please. She will in turn give them to the board members. Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Chair, members, my name is Eric Daniels with Pacific Gas and Electric, and a quasi San Benito from South County. So we want the grass to get cut down in South County first.
Thank you.
Thank you. There you go, Mr. Menzer.
Maybe we should play a
My
Pico
family
game,
down there.
winner take all.
No, I kid you. Thank you for having us today. It's a very serious topic we come to speak to you about today. It's about the public's safety, about your constituent safety, our customer safety, and our employees' safety. And I want to thank the administrator and the Public Works Director and the Fire Chief for inviting us to join you today and present this presentation to you. I brought a colleague of mine with me who will go over a small deck for you and bring you up to speed on what we're talking about. But as you all are aware, a few years ago, there was a tragic event in San Bruno that has sort of precipitated this situation. And then just recently, we had a third-party dig-in over in Fresno, which I'm sure you all heard about. And these kind of safety factors are episodes are things that we want to avoid and we want to reduce. And that's what this program is about, this initiative, the Community Gas Safety Initiative. There are many facets to it. We have already gone through a number of those, and now we come to the county and to you to partner in our next phase, and that's what we're going to talk to you about today. So I'll turn it over to my colleague Darren Klein, who will walk you through the deck, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions afterwards. Thank you.
Good morning. Make sure I got. So I'm here to talk about pipeline safety in your neighborhoods. Right now, when we talk about pipelines, just to be very clear, we are talking about transmission pipelines. Distribution and transmission, they're two different things, and transmission is, as Eric had mentioned, is something that we want to ensure that we have the safest pipeline in the nation, and we have been going through several steps to make sure that we are the safest pipeline, and we are going to continue to do these steps. Where we have started out is we have pressure tested all of our gas lines. That's hydrostatic testing. You may have seen us in your neighborhoods. We put the pressure into that transmission line that's twice what it would ever be expected to withstand, see if there's any issues. We then have started to install automatic gas valves. That automatic gas valves help us to shut down the system quickly, so we don't have to send somebody out to actually do it. Also, we have a state-of-the-art place in San Ramon. It's 5th floor. And we have people monitoring our pipelines 24/7 for when anything happens. Now, when I say anything, we knew about Fresno before we got the call. 9 minutes before the call, there was a variation in pressure on that line. We then started to investigate. We got the call, and we sent people out to shut down that line. That line was shut down in about, it was one of the quickest we've ever shut down a large line like that. We are making sure to replace transmission pipelines as we do this, but I also want you to know that we continually do leak surveys. At least once a year, if not more, we do leak surveys. You will be seeing in the next few months, you'll be seeing, I know if you've seen those Google Map cars, you're going to have one that's the PG&E blue. It's called a Picaro car. It can actually sniff gas leaks. This car has made it so that we can now, we have gotten 99% better in the last 3 years in locating gas leaks, 99%. We also fly over our gas lines, and we make sure that there aren't any encroachments, people building on them and stuff like that. What we have found as we get into the next phase, as we've been flying over our lines, is there is a lot of vegetation. And there are there is not a good sense in the community that there is an active pipeline. And we realize as a company, especially as we've been doing all this, that it is up to us to work with the community to make sure that people know what's going on in their community. As we have talked to private property customers, 60% of them don't know they have a transmission pipeline in their backyard. That is a huge concern to us, and we know that education is something that is paramount. So we are coming to folks like you. We are going to neighborhood associations. We're talking to the Lions Club so that we can make sure that everybody knows what's going on in their neighborhood. For us on pipelines, the number one thing is we want to ensure that firefighters and safety crews have quick and immediate access to the pipeline. Here in San Benito, our greatest concern is rural area. You know, something happens, it takes time to get out there to assess the situation, fix the situation. We want to make sure that those first responders have that immediate access to the pipe. We want to make sure that we as a group can properly maintain the line. And when I say as a group, we're not here to tell you what to do. We're here to say we realize what your community is, and we want to work with you to make sure that people understand that a pipeline marker means there's a pipeline. And we want everybody to see that. We have people taking down pipeline markers all the time. We are flying over and make sure those pipeline markers get put back up. We haven't done a great job of that in the past. And that's one of the reasons why we have a shareholder-paid program that is paying for this part of it, because we want to show that we have responsibility, and we want to share that responsibility as we make this the safest pipeline in the country with you.
I have a question in that regard. Is that signage universal? I mean, if you see one, they're all the same down the line?
They're all the same down the line, and we have what's called line of sight, so you can see from one pipeline marker to the next on our transmission lines.
Thank you.
We also have a problem with trees and tree roots. Unfortunately, transmission pipelines can only be made of steel. So steel has condensation on it. Tree roots have a tendency to grow towards that condensation. We have what is called cathodic protection on our pipes that help tell us when there's corrosion. We also have inline inspection gauges, which is, it's a little robot that goes down the middle of the pipe. It squeals, so we call it pigs. And thanks to the acronym world, they call those pipeline inspection gauges. You come up with the acronym first, then you figure out the rest, right? So we check that cathodic protection every other month, but unfortunately tree roots are something that has proven to be a problem. And we need to look at that vegetation and decide what is good to be near the pipe and what isn't. For us, it's working with you so that you understand what is going on in your community, and trying to work with you. I wanted to take just one quick moment, show you, this is some of the little problems that we have with tree roots. The tree roots will actually grow around the pipe. You get a good windstorm, wrenches the pipe, and we have an incident. The other problem that we have is that the tree roots will grow and impress on the cathodic protection and leave an imprint, and then that's where corrosion starts. Now, because we check the cathodic protection every other month, we know that we do not have a problem currently here in San Benito County. I don't want you to be thinking that we have to do this tomorrow, but we do need to look at these things over our pipe. Now, here, I want you to know that we know that when we come in and do this work with trees, especially in people's neighborhoods, you can change the character of a neighborhood overnight. We're not here to do that. We're here to work with you to figure out what works with your county, which is why we came and we met with Ray and we met with Joe and went over kind of a high level, and we have a forester that wants to come in and sit down with them and go over at a much smaller level. What we do is, when it comes to franchise trees, this is trees not on private property, this is trees that are on county property, city properties, stuff in franchise along the side of the road. We actually do a tree-by-tree review, and we try to decide if that is manageable within the pipe zone or unmanageable. If it's unmanageable, we will insist that those come out. If they're manageable, we would like to talk about, what we could do to make the community a touch safer. So the question then becomes, well, what are we looking for? This is, here is an example where with the pipe zone, within the border zone of 5 feet, we are looking for low-profile grasses. Within the border zone, nothing that has a real kind of tree root or a brush that has thick roots. And then in the outer zone and beyond the outer zone, then we can start planting trees. And what we're looking to do is replace trees. If a tree is too close to the pipeline, if there's room to plant it just outside of the outer zone, that's what we would like to do. We will restore the original area at our cost. And if replacement does not fit within that area, we will look to replace somewhere else in your community, depending on what you would like to do. When it comes to private property, we go out to the individual homeowner. We give a presentation similar to this to them so they can understand what's going on. Like I said, 60% don't realize, even though they signed it in their closing documents, that there is a transmission pipeline on their property. But we do sit down with that homeowner and we come to an agreement for restoration. We restore it to what is good for all of us to live with a pipeline. We will provide replacement trees, and we will make sure that either those trees get planted or come to an agreement on that. As we have been approaching this work, we realize that there needs to be community outreach. Like I said, we're meeting with you right now, but we will also we will do everything from mailing letters, newsletters about gas work that's going on. We will go door to door. We will have open houses, community meetings, anything that you feel we should do, and we will bring our experience as we've been doing this to other communities to you, saying, this is what worked well, this didn't work well, but let's come up with a plan so that people understand that this pipeline is something that we need. It's a piece of infrastructure that's very valuable to us, and we want to make sure as we go forward on a regular basis, people are being reminded that there is this pipeline in their neighborhood. So right now, as we look at next steps, we are here to answer your questions. I know you have a few, I'm sure. I would like to tell you about the scope of work for just 1 second and then take questions. Right now, we have about, in the unincorporated area of San Benito County, it is 97% private property, 3% in franchise. That means there's roughly about 30 trees in franchise that we can sit and talk with you about. There are roughly 800 trees and other types of vegetal encroachments, brushwork, and stuff like that. We are looking to ask help from you, or really to allow us to go and start talking to our private customers, getting them informed so that we can bring that information back to you to tell you what's going on. If there are some trees within those private properties that we feel we can save or wouldn't have to replace, we can report that back to you as well. The other community that has a lot of franchise and private property is Aromas. And Aromas as an area combines with Monterey County, and we are in the process of collecting all that data for Monterey County. So what we would like to do is come back in a couple months when we have the data for Monterey and have a plan that's for all of Aromas, not just for one half of the county on one side and one half of the county on the other, because I would hate to have people come to a certain agreement on one side and then you go across the county line and it changes. So that's why that is kind of put on the side right now, and we're really looking at the private property that we would like to get into in the unincorporated rural areas. So with that being said, do you have any questions, concerns?
Okay. Supervisor Rivas?
All right, well, thank you for the presentation. This is a lot of great information. And so I represent a district, I actually represent little to no area in the rural county. I'm all in the downtown Hollister area.
Yep.
Near the high school, and I actually live there, as my wife and I just bought a home there. And there's a whole bunch of huge trees there. And after reading a report like this, I'm concerned that, my side of my district is going to fall into a hole if there's an explosion or something. So I'm just concerned, because there's some huge trees in like the Monterey Street area and the high school area. And so how would I find out where those pipelines are and if that would be affected or not?
So you can find those pipelines on our website, and we can send you the link to that.
Perfect.
Also, National Transportation Safety Board has a link where they show the pipeline, and Joe has told me personally, he's looked it up in some meetings, he's probably looking it up right now, so that you can see where that pipeline is. We will be meeting with the city of Hollister to talk about transmission pipeline, and coming to an agreement with them and working with them. And, you know, your house is near that pipeline, somebody will probably be knocking on your door from us to inform you of what's going on. That's our goal. And so, you know, between Hollister and the rest of the county, you will be seeing us.
Okay, yeah, well, I'll be in touch with staff here and certainly with the council members in my district.
And Supervisor, we're happy to meet with you individually as well to talk you through the program and show you where the pipeline actually is, because I don't know that it goes near where you're talking about. But.
Okay. Yeah, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Supervisor Munson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know if the question's so much for you gentlemen, but do we need to look at our tree ordinances? Will this be affected by our tree ordinances?
Well, that was one of the discussion items that we had with PG&E a week or two ago when we actually talked. And I think one of the things is they don't want to, you know, hinder any of the ordinances that we have. But if there isn't something that we need to address, obviously we'll have to come back to the board and address them as a one-off. Again, we went through the map. We looked at the actual big pipelines going out in the South County, and there are a lot of trees around some of these pipes in certain locations, but a lot of them are rural, way out in the country. But obviously, I'm sure PG&E can talk a little bit more about that as well.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if I actually understood the question.
Well, we have a couple of tree ordinances.
Right.
One which we enacted, and we're having to renumber it today, and that is more the residential area.
Yes.
We also have a tree ordinance that deal with the woodland oaks out in the rural area. And so.
Right.
I'm just
Okay,
asking
so that's where
if-
my confusion came in.
Okay.
I understand what you're saying
Okay,
now.
so are we going to have to tweak those ordinances to give you permission to do what you need to do?
No. We didn't see any concern on that, and
We will work with whatever
Yeah.
the ordinance has in it.
yeah, we work with what the ordinance has in it. We respect all that. We respect all permits. We're here to work with you, sir.
Very good.
Supervisor Patella?
Yeah, I know at one time it wasn't so much gas line emphasis as much as transmission electric lines, and they did quite a trim job on some of the trees in my district. And I think there's probably a provision in there that, you know, gives way to, you know, facilities, utility lines and things like that for the exemption. But I really appreciate PG&E taking the time today and making this presentation, especially in light, you know, what happened in Fresno. And, you know, people could get seriously hurt or killed, you know, without, you know, checking where the lines are. And I do appreciate yourself, Mr. Daniels. We've been trying to get together for coffee. I owe you a cup.
I want to play
for
some
sure.
Pedro.
Yeah. And your predecessor was always good about communicating work along the, you know, gas lines in my district to me, and that certainly does help when people ask questions as what's going on. I'll offer myself, if you want communicating to the public in Aromas, I'd be very happy to work with you and try to get the word out that this is a necessity for the safety of everybody, as well as the continuance of, you know, the convenience of natural gas that we have in our state. So
We look forward to working with you and all the members as we progress through your district, if there are any lines that need to be addressed in your particular districts. But we'll be approaching you to show you where that is and have a dialogue with you so that you can gauge your constituency's interest as well and what we might want to do in that area to have an open house or whatever might be required in that area.
yeah, and the sense that I have is that, you know, PG&E is is not looking to just take an easy way out and just, oh, what, a questionable tree, we're just cut it down and forget about it. It's quite a bit of an evaluation process if that's necessary, and I appreciate that. Trees are valued in our county as far as habitat and beautification of our landscape, so as long as we keep that in mind, but safety is first.
We like to say right tree, right place. And we've given information, and we will continue to give information on the right trees to plant, the right place for that to be. And we hope that everyone calls before they dig. Call 811 before you dig, please. That would have.
And I want to thank the board for a meeting or two ago when you did pass a resolution on 811, helping to give the public the awareness on call before you dig. We appreciate that.
Well, thank you for being here. We appreciate the outreach. A disclaimer here, my son works for PG&E in the gas part of it out of San Jose. So I appreciate, I know he's very much involved in trying to find if there are any leaks and things of that sort in many areas in California. But with that being said, I think what the work that you do is you're taking a proactive approach, which is very necessary for safety. My concern for my district is the Santana Ranch development that's going up on the east side of Fairview, because, and I live in that area just behind it. I'm probably about 500 to 600 feet away from the gas transmission line.
You know it's there?
Yeah, it goes from you know, on the, like I said, on the east side of Fairview. But I know that they are planning a linear type park, which will be having trees planted. And so I just advise that you are in communication with them, because if it's going to be a park-like setting near that pipe line, then they need to be aware of what they can and cannot plant and try to keep that area as safe as possible. And there will be homes surrounding that area that are going to be built within the next year or two.
Yeah, thank you for that. We did speak with the Public Works Director, and we're brought aware of that situation.
Very good.
I'm making a note of it. We got it.
All right, very good. Thank you so much. Any other comments or questions from, okay, comments or questions from the public?
Marty Bishop from Hollister. I hope they're going to, did you plan on giving the same presentation to the city? Good. I do recommend that you review your tree ordinance to see if you have an exception in there. And if not, we should put an exception in there. That'll take care of having to do it on a case-by-case basis every time somebody comes up and says, I have a new problem. The second thing is that I am also concerned about the security issues. So it's a two-sided sword. One is you mark all the lines, and then somebody goes, where's the line, so I can start a problem, and there's the line. The other one is, of course, our problems with earthquakes being where we are. So I wonder if we could ask the PG&E folks to talk about the new valves they're putting in, whether or not they're remote shutoff, and number two is protection against a design engineered in protection against earthquake ruptures, which would not be something where we could say, okay, don't drill here or something. It's a natural phenomenon, but we know we're in that area, and a lot of people have the impression that, oh, well, if we have an earthquake, the natural gas will still be there, and that's why I have a natural gas generator. It'll just start up and run my house. Well, maybe the natural gas line will not survive. So I appreciate if you could just comment on that issue.
Thank you, Marty.
Thank you.
Safety and security are paramount, and that is, you know, we don't want to scare folks as we talk about this stuff, but with some of the vegetation and biomass over the lines, it does create some security issues, and that is one of the issues that we focus on. We try to say it's first responders. We want to make sure that they have clear line of sight of the pipe and that they can handle any situation that may occur around that. The first responders here, we as a company meet with the first responders here twice a year. They have GIS mapping of the pipeline, so they know exactly where it is. They know how to go through our web portal to get that information. We actually, it's funny when you talk about security, we can't give pipeline information as a company to your county. So, you know, there are security things that are put in when it comes to those kinds of things. When it, I know that, you know, we're an earthquake country and there are concerns with the pipeline. That is one of the reasons why we have a 24/7 operation out of San Ramon, and that is why we are installing automated valves. We have installed 181 automated valves in the last 2 years throughout our system, and we're scheduled to install another 160 over the next 2 years. Those automated valves, you know, they can be shut off from San Ramon at a moment's notice. There are still regular physical cutoff valves throughout the system. And, you know, when it comes to earthquake protections and stuff like that, that's the number one protection we have are those automated valves. Those pipelines have been in the ground for well over 60 years. And I can get you even more information about what we do on that. I don't necessarily have all of that right now.
I was just concerned about the valves.
Yeah, no, the valves is the number one protection. Yep.
All right, well, thank you.
Okay.
Anything else?
No,
Okay.
did I answer all your questions?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
great.
Well,
Madam
thank
Chair.
you for your information. Any other questions? CAO Espinosa?
Yeah, one thing I want to add is with regards to the tree ordinance, there is an exemption for emergencies if there's any major issues. Again, we had talked about this, you know, they're going to do everything by the book, pulling permits, whatever it takes, and to do this correctly. So
Okay.
just want to make sure the board was aware of that.
All right, well, again, thank you for coming out here, and this is live streamed, so people will be able to see it at home and will learn from it, and so I appreciate that, very important.
Great.
So, okay.
Thank you.
We are going to take a break. I know we have item number 31 that has been pulled, so we're not going to do it. So we're going to take a short break and come back to discuss item 32.
It's not on here yet.
resume our meeting, please. And we're on our regular agenda, item number 32. 31 has been pulled until later date. So CAO Espinosa?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, this item has been an ongoing conversation with your board, as well as the intergovernmental with regards to sales tax initiative for 2016. Your board did request some additional information as well as kind of next steps with regards to this. So Sarah Fontanos, who's our management analyst in administration, is here to kind of give a quick presentation with your board and the public of kind of the different strategies, what funding streams would actually go to the different agencies and with the different scenarios. So she's outlined 3 different scenarios for your board to consider and more or less next steps. So, Sarah?
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to throw a lot of information at you in the next 20 to 40 minutes, as Supervisor De La Cruz believes it will take. So I just want to emphasize that there are no bad questions today. I am hoping from this that we will all leave today with some information that makes us a little more confident, provides us a little more direction. I also want to emphasize that we don't necessarily have to feel forced to make a decision today. And you'll understand why in a little bit. But first, before I start this, I know it can be distracting to look at something and listen at the same time. The big questions are really going to be focusing on countywide or unincorporated, looking at what the increment amount of an add-on tax will be, and then some reasonings, like Ray said, a little bit of options potentially. None of it is set in stone. So let's go. I'm going to first recap before we start getting into specifics of countywide versus unincorporated. But very simply, what we're looking at is if we go to the city, what are the pros and cons of it versus with the cities versus if we go alone with our unincorporated area, what are we trading off for that? What does it mean for COG as well? So put simply up here, we have overall together, it would be less initiatives on the ballot because obviously if we had a countywide add-on tax, not thinking of amount, but let's just say we're going with the city, that's potentially 2 initiatives rather than 3. Because we do know that COG is hoping to put one on for roads, a special tax, and potentially another one from us at a separate time, that's a general. Now, if we went separate, that would be the potential of, where is the timing? When does the city of Hollister go? We know they want to do another 1%. Theirs ends in 2018. So what does that look like? Right here, it's basically a balance between more money for us or not and more money for COG versus possible easier passage for a countywide vote.
You have a question, Supervisor Batella?
No, I just got confused. And maybe I do have a question because of my confusion.
That's okay.
What I was wondering is, I thought we were going to either try to do a countywide sales tax, whatever the percent, whatever general or specific, but it was either going to go through COG, which would be the specific tax strictly for transportation. And now what I'm hearing from, staff, there's contemplation of having 2 different measures, one for the county as a general tax, and COG running another tax as a specific tax. Is that what I'm
No,
hearing?
what you're hearing is that Sarah's actually putting forth all the different options and all the different directions that we may go. We have not, as a board, made a decision yet on how we're going to do this. So with the more information that we get from Sarah, the easier it'll be for us to make a decision on which direction we're going to go. So what she's going to present today is our options going by ourselves, what that will look like, separate from COG, separate from the cities, together, and I'm assuming together with the cities and with COG.
Yep.
And so she's going to present all those different options so that we can get a better idea on how we're going to move forward, because every decision that we make is going to affect us will have its pros and cons.
Yes.
Right, Sarah?
Correct.
Did I explain that? And Supervisor Munzer, you have a question?
To make sure Supervisor Botello is.
Yeah, you still, that's true.
Oh,
You-
yeah, well, and that's, I understand that part of it, and I guess we're still
We're still-
evolving with our information.
We
Because the way I view it is that we're either do the sales tax, or COGS do it for transportation, but, probably not both. I don't
Right.
think
And there are
that's the way
two
to go.
different timelines here. We can do we can put it on the ballot for June, or we can put it for June of 2016 or November of 2016. So those are the kinds of things that we need to talk about. What are our options, and what is the best opportunity that we may have with those two dates? So,
Madam Chair.
yes, sir.
We have to add more confusion to the discussion. Do I get the sense that there's a push that COG? Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Is there a direction in which the board is, or members of COG is leaning for COG to have its sales tax, regardless of what other combinations will be implemented?
I don't know that that is the case, but we can find out. I mean, we can get information from our COG representatives. Supervisor Munzer?
Yeah, my question is, I thought at some previous meeting, after the COG board had the sales tax presentation, we had the sales tax presentation, that I asked that it be agendized for this board to take a position on whether it supported COG to go out with its sales tax initiative at some level for the benefit of transportation. And I apologize to both Ray and Sarah. I had a busy weekend. I was not able to call you ahead of this. But I don't see that in the wording of this AIT, that we can do that now. I'm still hoping that we can take that action to either give a thumbs up or a thumbs down direction to the COG board that we as a board support COG going forward.
So the answer is yes.
In
then.
connection or in unity with also us having to do our own, or we go in.
Yes,
We
yeah.
may go in a different direction, but
But
we
I
would
would-
still support the COG.
Yes. Yes, and
okay.
I was hoping that we would be able to do that today.
Okay.
So that the COG board would know
What to do,
exactly.
right. CAO Espinosa?
So, really, yes to everything that's been discussed here. I think as Sarah has been working with this, it has become kind of somewhat complicated. The Intergovernmental has voiced their recommendation to move forward with an 8.5% sales tax
Yes.
countywide. So that was one of the items, as well as I think we're on board with moving forward with getting the roads fixed. I mean, it's a real large issue that we have. One of the caveats, and I think this is what Sarah's going to get into, is how that's going to work with each other. What percentages are going to do what? I think one of the things, and one of the reasons why we want to kind of really think about this is what are the cost of the roads? How much money is going to be received? We do 1/4% for COG, 1/2% for COG. What does that mean? As well as even from the sales tax initiative, what does that mean? So the different scenarios are going to be presented here. I think it'll probably be a little bit more enlightening, and I think at that point, once that occurs, I think we have a little bit more tangible evidence before us to make a decision, and I think that's kind of where we're at. So.
Okay, and I have a question for the representatives of COG. What are the timelines for COG in order for them to move forward with their decision? What are you looking at in terms of timeline?
Well, in my mind, it was always about the sales tax for transportation and what's the best vehicle to accomplish that countywide and have the trust of, the taxpayers behind, a project list to improve and maintain our current road situation. And, I kind of feel that we're sliding off into, supporting a permanent 1% tax for, along with Hollister to support other governmental services. And on a general basis, and only a portion of that going to transportation. I think we kind of, from my perspective, are losing a little bit of focus on it, because it's not a lot of money. We're not talking about a lot of money here. If it's 1% or 1/4%, I don't think we achieve our objective.
Yeah, and I agree with you and I think that that's why it's important for Sarah to give us this information so that we can really see what the dollars are, and it'll make it easier for us to decide, wow, you know, which way do we go if this is all that we're going to get?
Yeah,
then how do we
and so
do it?
if we get a 1% sales tax, we get our share of the revenues, and we apply it to transportation. City of Hollister extends their 1% sales tax, maintaining it at 8.5, and they're dependent on running their general public safety services. And what they do with their money, if roads is not that important within the city, but also take into account is every city resident uses county roads.
Yes, exactly. And we talked about this yesterday when we met, myself and Ray, Matt, and Sarah, in preparation for today's meeting, is that there may be an opportunity for the city and the county with some of these funds to partner together for some of the roads that are both county-city roads. So that's another option that we may be able to hear from Sarah.
Madam Chair, I'll say my position, and I'll be at peace and listen to Sarah's presentation. But what I'm hearing from both Supervisor Patello and Munzer is COG is number one. That's what I've been hearing, unless I'm wrong. COG is number one. The percentage, we don't know, half, quarter, 1%, we don't know. And then after that, let the chips for the fall or whatever crumbs are available, then that's what it is. I don't know if the city, and I don't represent the city, but I don't know if the city's willing to say, okay, let COG do theirs, and then we're going to go do ours. And then we as a county, guess we kind of get left out, because the discussion of providing a sales tax for the general fund, it's going to be real tough. You're almost talking 3 taxes right there.
Well, I think that that's what we have to be very careful with, is that if we're putting a lot of taxes on the ballot, they probably will all fail. We have to really, really, if we're not together on whatever we decide to do, we may not be successful. So I think that's why we probably need to see what is the best opportunity for us and see which way will benefit us the most.
Right.
So any other questions before she proceeds? Okay, we'll listen.
So, thank you, Supervisor Munzer. I did not realize, and it has been convoluted about whether or not COG would be included or running this battle on their own because of the special tax language that it is. Before I begin, all the scenarios here assume that COG would be running a separate initiative. And that is because there is question of if we include something as specific to roads with a project list with the rest of the city and the county, does that now turn the entire thing into a supermajority 2/3 voter approval requirement? And are we now dealing with one special tax measure? The 3 scenarios, just put simply, have them running their own special tax at either 1/4% that you'll see in scenario 1, or us giving them a little bit more, allowing them to do 0.5% in scenario 2. So just going to front load you with that. We have to remember that what we do countywide will affect everybody else and limit them to what their available options are. At minimum, if we went all together, COG would only get 1/4%, and you can look at page 2 of the report you just have in front of you and see what 1/4% looks like in regards to revenue, which isn't much. I think it's about 1.1 million, if I'm recalling correctly. 1.4 to 1.6 countywide. All of that would have to be split, basically, so it's not much. So I'm going to just kind of go over what we talked about last time and what was talked about and came out of the April 2nd meeting before we start reviewing our scenarios. I had explained to you on March 31st, common sales tax terms, talked about our statewide base, 7.5%, and what our local rates are with our add-ons. Hollister and San Juan Bautista are the only 2 that have add-ons right now, as you recall, and the unincorporated area remains at 7.5%. We do have legislation that allows us to go unincorporated only, to raise our 7.5% if we were to go alone on an initiative. Again, a countywide add-on would affect everybody and limit what everyone else has available to them. On April 2nd, the actions that came out of the Intergovernmental Committee, I gave them a very similar presentation to what you received on March 31st. And there was a suggestion of a joint board and council meeting, researching of property taxes. I think everyone agreed that a sales tax initiative isn't our end-all, be-all, and we're going to have to look at different revenue options, property tax, financing options, to really get to where we hope to be. And an analysis, as you guys have mentioned, of what our needs really are. There's going to be a lot of staff work there so that you can prioritize. There was a tentative agreement from Intergovernmental to do a 1% countywide. I believe that included COG, because right now if we did a 1% and didn't talk to COG at all, they'd be booted out and wouldn't be able to do their own initiative because of the 2% cap.
Madam Chair, was for scenario one, why can't you include language in a ballot measure that specifies that Hollister would stay at 8.5 and San Juan at 8.25 until March of 31st of 2018 or February, whatever that drop dead date is? Why do they have to, why does it have to increase? I imagine you could include the language that would specify that it would stay
that's one of the things that we
stable.
talked about, if their tax percentage stayed the same up until that date, that the money would then be used together for roads or for whatever. That they wouldn't get it to use as they please. There could be language there somehow, and I don't know how we can do that, but I guess it would be in a separate tax sharing agreement of some sort.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
But that's a good thought, because,
because I'll tell, being a consumer,
yes,
I would have a heart attack if I was be charged 9.5% on a sale item.
yeah.
I wouldn't, that's too much money.
It's definitely something we can work with county council, and obviously the Board of Equalization would probably have some more information, because the resolutions, once this goes forward and is approved, has to be worked out with them either way, so.
Yeah, they have to approve it.
Yeah, they would have to.
State Board of Equalization. So you're absolutely right, that the community may say, well, the city is now getting more, during that time.
Yeah.
But if there would be language where the city and the county could jointly use that money for roads or for some, or parks, could be parks.
Well, I have on my notes here that, there should be, if we're have a general tax, which, I don't support, is there would be an advisory ballot measure that would ask the voters if they would support the majority of the money going towards road maintenance, and let the voters decide if it's be a general tax.
So let's talk about scenario one. We'll just go straight into it. So the nice thing about this is, you notice on the top, scenario one, countywide, 75-25 split. This could be one ballot, COGS included, we have a tax share agreement with them, or they could be running their own special initiative on the side, and still the split would be the same because of our cap requirement. We couldn't go 1% and just share it with the cities and then expect COG, they couldn't go any higher than that. Again, they'd be pushed out. So you see the rates here. I've spoken with the auditor, and the tax share agreement would be basically splitting it based on their sales tax revenue base. So the cities together get about 60%, so it would be simple to that. Any additional would be split 60% between San Juan Bautista and Hollister, the 40% coming back to the county, and how that's split with COG to be determined. In this case, let's say it was just the quarter of it going back to them. Question still remains on whether or not this ballot would, or this initiative would be special, would be pushed to special because of the inclusion of COG or not. So that will be to be determined. As you can see, let's just walk through this.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Sarah, on that specific question, you just, the comment you just said right now.
Yes.
Supervisor Munzer, how long have we discussed, COG alone, together with the county, the city, or countywide? It's been about 2-3 months. Is that pretty safe to assume?
Yes.
Sarah, how come, I guess, Matt, how come our legal team hasn't told us that it will click at two-thirds votes if we do something like scenario one? Because what I hear from Sarah is, we don't know yet. You're hired to give us that answer. We should know by now.
I don't think we know what the board wants to do.
Well, there's like 10,000 scenarios. We should
So
give
when the
us-
board figures out or selects the scenario, we can hone our advice. But what Sarah will tell you is that we want it to go as a tax with the advisory, but we're trying to be careful not to somehow make it too specific so that a legal argument comes about that it's not a general tax, it's a special tax. So the devil is in the wording of it, and we're trying to be careful not to give rise to an argument that we've worded what we consider to be the general tax initiative so narrowly that someone can come in and challenge it and say, oh, this needs the wording has affected the initiative. So, it's not that we can't tell you what it is, it's just that we need to see the wording after the board makes a decision and the agreement's been reached as to where the parties are going in this.
Yeah, but that we need that, backup information so we can make an intelligence decision on, okay, we look at a matrix. Is it COG? Is that a two-thirds? Is it a joint between the city and the county? Is that a simple majority? How much can COG get? It's just a matrix of things, and then part of that equation also includes the opinion from our staff that says, oh, this will trigger two-thirds, or this will be a simple majority.
So if you're going for a tax that's a general tax, if that's how the county titles the tax, okay, and it says we can use it for various things, one of which is road improvement. And even if there's an advisory measure, there also goes on that says, well, we understand it's a general tax. We'd like you to use that money for road improvement. Okay, that's a general tax.
So it's a simple majority.
Simple majority.
That's it.
Simple majority. Now, where it gets a little bit tricky is if you say this is a general tax, but we're only going to use it for roads. Under no circumstance are we going to use it for anybody else. It's only going to go for roads. Well, then the argument could rise. Well, you say it's a general tax, but really, in the reality, it sounds more like a specific tax. So we're just being a little bit cautious about that. But a general tax, which is what I think the board has contemplated, is one that would go to the general fund that could be used however the board determined it should be used, but with the advisory from the citizens that vote on it that they would like to see that money go to roads. If that's the case, then it's a general tax, Commissioner or Supervisor De La Cruz, and it only needs a 51% majority.
Okay. All right, Sarah.
So, I know there's a lot, so I wanted to just bring up this table. Let's just go to this. You're talking, this is in the presentation, so I don't know how well you can see it. Hopefully okay. I'll read it out to you.
Madam Chair, I need to have a clarification. I'm sorry, Sarah.
Okay, no. Open conversation's probably
And you
the
know what?
best.
We knew that this was going to happen.
I could have saved some time last night.
There's so much detail, and it's so important that it has to be flushed out like this.
Yeah. So under scenario one, or maybe even all of the scenario, the city is still doing its own 1%. It's continuing its 1%.
Right, until 2018. Now,
Okay, no, and then after 2018, their 1%, they're going to have a.
they could make
They
that
will become part of this, or they would still have their own 1%, hopefully carrying on their own 1% either forever or for another 5 years, whatever they decide to do.
I would think they would attempt to. I think they need it, their 1%.
So if they do that, then we won't achieve what Mr. Richmond was hoping, that we would end up unincorporated and incorporated paying the same sales tax.
Correct.
It still would be off.
We would still be off.
Okay. Now, under this scenario one, the cities and the county would be doing a 3/4%, and the COG would be off doing its own 1/4%?
So we can look at it this way. Yes, that is correct. They
Okay.
could be off doing their own thing, or the tax sharing agreement says we'll give COG a quarter of it.
Okay, so just throwing this out,
Okay.
there's a proposal that had been presented to COG, which would increase Highway 25 as far as Shore Road, and not to the county line, just to Shore Road, and that cost is $50 million. So under this scenario, we'll be able to build that in 50 years.
Exactly. That's exactly why we need to look at those numbers. Is it realistic? Is it realistic?
We'll be able to build the 4 lanes to Shore Road in 50 years.
And that's if we're lucky.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Ray, CAO Espinosa, you had a comment?
No, I was just going to say that the city has plans to move forward with an initiative. They need to, in order to keep their budget fiscally,
With that
in line
1% to
with
continue.
The 1%, yeah. So that's something that they're going to do this next year, in 2016,
Okay.
no matter what.
Okay.
It's good to know this.
Oh, yeah, this is it. We got to flush everything
We
out.
got to flesh it out
and-
today. I agree.
Yeah. Okay, Sarah.
Okay. So I think I'm going to jump to my recommendation of 3 and why, and I think I will flesh out some other things. Okay?
Forget about 2.
I say we go it alone. But
That might actually be a better idea.
because, one, it doesn't affect everybody else. I think it trying to meet everybody else's rate a little bit easier, as you can see in the little chart there. It leaves more flexibility for COG to determine a quarter cent or a half. They wouldn't be limited by us. Now, of course, you're trading that with, maybe not a community that likes tax hikes, and a smaller, at the same time, though, maybe it's a smaller community to campaign to. There has been conversation that doesn't now include the PD and maybe some support there if we're not including city services. It's basically a trade-off between flexibility and potentially more funding for the county and COG versus will it pass? I believe that a 7-year temporary in the unincorporated area with an audit committee, with an advisory question, with public protection involved would make passage more likely. I do think it's simpler in regards to staff efforts and time because there's no need for negotiation for a tax sharing agreement. There's no need to write one, and there's no need for our county auditor to now allocate any funding to other cities or to COG. Well, they still do to COG, but we don't have to allocate anything because there's no tax sharing agreement now. We are simply focusing on our unincorporated area.
Supervisor Patella?
Yeah, I'm still don't quite understand how we, kind of got off track. I was always looking at one sales tax, try and bring in uniformity with the 2 cities, and if we went through COG, that would be the one sales tax. If we did it on our own, countywide, that is just one sales tax. COG doesn't do anything. COG doesn't need to have a sales tax. Right. That's the way I look at it. And then if it's a general tax that this, board decides to go in that direction, then we allocate whatever monies we need to Public Works to do through bonding, and the sales tax would serve as the bond for our road maintenance. What we do with Highway 25, I'm not 100% sure, but maybe that's what COG wants to do, is raise a campaign for a special sales tax for Highway 25, which I just don't see the voters supporting anything 9.5% on sales tax for purchases in the city. You lose so much business, and you lose that much business even when it drops off because people won't stay informed that the taxes are diminished. And, I think that's where the discussion has to go, is if we're not do the special tax, we don't do the special tax. Because if COG puts something on the ballot, and then we have something on the ballot, the city of Hollister has something on the ballot, they all get no votes.
They all get no votes. Mm-hmm.
And so I would hope that we focus in on one sales tax, whether it's a general or a specific tax, and that's, that's what we send out to the public, and that's what we work on to to go forward. Hollister, they need the extra money to run their government. We live within our means. We just need some extra money because the state has diverted so much money away from our road maintenance programs. That's why we have the need. And that's kind of how I feel about it.
Okay, so in a nutshell, you would support a unified tax that would give money to the county, to the cities, and to COG.
Not to COG.
Not to COG, I'm sorry, you didn't say COG. COG would have to do their own, and then we would use that money and get a tax sharing agreement between us and the cities. Is that what you-
And for your sake, Madam Chair and Supervisor De La Cruz, I kind of position myself on the premise that this board takes a position. COG can't just act on its own. I won't vote and support something that the Board of Supervisors aren't completely supportive of policy.
Right.
So, unless directed, and then I'll carry that forward. But I really think that if we put too many tax measures on the ballot,
They're going to fail.
they're all fail.
So you're thinking that we do one, a unified one?
We do one,
for
and
the cities and the county, county-wide, and then
Right.
COG would do. Now, have you given any thought to doing it in June or November? And perhaps we would do one in June, and then COG would do theirs in November. That's another scenario. Sarah, can you add to that possibility?
Yes, so it sounds like you're saying two different things here. So let's just run through the scenario as if all is okay, and that there is one countywide, as you're saying. COG doesn't do one. That would be scenario 2, because I think we can all agree that a quarter, 0.25% of our earnings to roads isn't enough. So let's assume countywide, 50-50, because the other question that sits here is, are we focusing just on roads, or are there other needs in the general fund? Are there other needs that the community wants besides roads? And I believe that in the survey from COG, it seemed like there was, and that it might be more likely that if it wasn't just roads, there was some opportunity there for other things, especially more opportunity if it wasn't just Highway 25. So let's assume that it's countywide, 1%, 50.5 of that going to COG, the rest being split among the county and cities for general. We would be limited to that 1%, and you would see, Supervisor Bertello, that Hollister would be at 9.5. There would be that discrepancy between all the rates, because that's a countywide measure that affects everybody.
that's going to kill, that will kill the ballot measure.
You don't like that. But you're also, what I'm hearing from you is that there is some concern with timing if we did decide to do some separation. So we have 3 degrees of separation here. We have one entire countywide, COGS included. We have our middle ground, which is COG leads roads separately, and the cities and county join together and do something general to help operations. And then we have our way, way end, where the county goes by itself, COG goes by itself, and the city, I don't believe San Juan Bautista is looking to raise. They might later on. But Hollister obviously is prior to 2018 when their current 1% ends. So we have those 3 options. Now, I can't predict the future on which one will pass. I can tell you from an administrative standpoint what looks like a lot more work, what data has told us will and won't pass, and I can tell you what that looks like is temporary passes more likely than permanent right now. And you guys need to decide on, do you want to balance the rates? And if you do, then that would be us going by ourselves, unincorporated, COG doing something separately. If you want to meet that middle ground and work out something with the city and have that high 9.5% in the city of Hollister, then that's going to be a countywide measure sharing. Or, again, we'll still keep that 9.5 in our last case scenario.
Supervisor Munzer has a question.
Okay, so I'm assuming under scenario 2, the way you have it written out, is Hollister would not go after its own 1%. And then they would be living on 8.5 after.
If they, let's say they did and it didn't pass, because theirs is temporary, it will end. If they went out and it didn't pass, then they're back to 8.5.
Yeah.
If they're successful, if it would be 9.5.
Has there been any discussions with them through intergovernment? Can they live on 8.5?
No, I don't believe they can. They want their 1%. They want it permanently, as far as I know.
Madam Chair, one of the conversational pieces with City Manager Bailey, he had mentioned that they would be able to live with it being reduced down. So they really wanted to join forces together and have this initiative passed as a group. So that was one of my questions to the city manager was, do you need that 1% as you have right now after 2018? And he said that we could live with it being less than that as long as they have something.
Oh, so they could live with the 8.5?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Supervisor Rivas and then Supervisor De La Cruz.
Right. So my concern is we could sit up here and try to predict how the voters are going to vote, but the truth is, I don't know how they're going to vote. We don't know how they're going to vote. I opposed the last sales tax to the city because I didn't, want to vote for something that was going to keep them afloat. And it passed, So, I don't know what is the best, way from a strategic point of view to move forward, but all I know is I feel most comfortable with doing it unincorporated only. That's, how I envision this. I think that, that's how I want to see us moving forward, and the city and, they can do whatever they want. I feel most comfortable doing this, going at it alone. I think that we certainly have to do what's best, what's in the best interest of our county and the people we represent. And I just think that makes the most sense. It's a little overwhelming, that's for sure.
And it is. It's certainly overwhelming. And going at it alone is one of the options. But as Matt pointed out, most of these tax measures pass when you have citizens that are actually pushing it, and citizens that have formed some sort of a committee, some sort of group that is selling this idea, not the government, not us. And so do we have people out there that are willing to step up to the plate? And we did hear at the intergovernmental but they were hearing that it was going to be countywide. And one lady did step up and say, you know what, that's how we passed the last city tax, is that we had a committee of community that was able to sell it. And they would do the same thing for us. Now, would they do it just for the unincorporated area? I don't know. We would have to go back and ask. But Supervisor De La Cruz, you had a question.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. A comment and a question. I believe that if it goes unincorporated area, which actually is the cleanest way, I do believe that, there's also a higher probability that it'll probably fail. The other section, I guess, and this is to Supervisor Munzer, is that if we go with the 1% countywide, after February 1st, 2018, the city will go down to 8%, right, Ray? Unless they pass something on their own between now and 2018, right?
They'll go back down to 7.5.
They'll go down to 7.5 after February 8, 2018?
As of March 31st, 2018, if they do nothing, they will go back down to 7.5%.
But if we do a countywide and we break out 50%, half percent to COG, and the other half between the county and the city of San Juan, I'm sorry, yeah, the cities and the county, sorry about that.
Okay.
Theirs will go from, it'll be actually 9.5, right?
Right.
Yep.
It'll be 9.5. Oh, God.
Back down
And
to
it'll go down
8.5.
to 8 and
A half.
a half. No, it's actually it's gonna go lower.
No, it would go down to 8.5.
Because right now, their add-on brings them to 8.5. We haven't done anything.
Right now, they're 8.5, right?
Right.
So
Yes.
in 2018, it sunsets, goes down to 7.5.
Right.
Then we introduce, somewhere in between, we introduce a countywide 1%. But the city's not gonna get the whole 1%, they're gonna get 0.5% because COG's gonna get the other 0.5%, correct?
That it's all about the wording.
It's all about the tax share agreement.
It's all about the tax sharing agreement. That has to be yeah, that has to be negotiated.
So, it's okay. Now I'm a little confused, but okay.
Okay.
More confused, okay.
We can go forward with that, so, and that is,
Hey, Robert's right.
That would be scenario number 3.
that would be, countywide would be 1 or 2. So,
Oh, that's right, I'm sorry.
right,
1 or
because
2.
the third one is if we're by ourselves. So,
Third one is by ourselves.
let's say we do 1% countywide. It wouldn't be effective until the beginning of 2017, I believe. So there would be a period of time that the city of Hollister would be collecting 9.5% for a short period of time.
Exactly.
Now, what happens to that extra money? Not negotiated yet, I don't know. I'm sure the city would love to keep it and put it somewhere. I'm sure as ideas were mentioned, we would love to share that money together, maybe on city-county projects.
Exactly.
But there will be a period of time where they're collecting 9.5 until either they again go out, which I don't think they will if they're at 9.5, which is what Ray is saying. So they would eventually go back after that and become 8.5, depending on if we do permanent or temporary. They would be 8.5, back to 8.5 eventually.
But, hold on, Madam Chair, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Please ask the questions. That's what it's all about.
Okay, let's say it goes on January 1st, 2018, it goes down to 8.5, right?
Okay.
Where does COG play a role in this?
That will depend on the tax share agreement. So,
we decide.
But wait a minute, okay, so let's assume there is a tax sharing agreement.
Okay.
Because as is right now, the city's at 1% whole. Any tax sharing agreement would drop the city not from underneath the 1% whole. So is the city willing to lose some of that 1%? After talking to Billy, right?
See, that is all, and
Yeah.
See,
We have-
it all goes back to the negotiation, and
Right.
I can ask Matt right now, and so that you can hear this, is that we would move forward only with the agreement that we would have an agreement in place on how we're going to share it, right? You don't do this after the tax passes. Is that correct,
Right,
Matt?
yes. So I think,
Yeah, you do this before, so everybody's clear who's going to get what at what point.
So, Madam Chair, not to disrespect Matt, so this goes back to the 2 representatives from COG. What percentage are they willing to be comfortable at a countywide?
Yeah,
That's the question. Then I want to know from those 2
Okay.
representatives.
Let me try this one more time. COG is not the driver of the sales tax. The only reason why we did some research is because we've been talking about road maintenance, which has been a high priority for this board. We've gone to Sacramento, lobbying for monies from the state to the local levels. We know that we are in deep trouble with our roads. I was talking with my friend out in the gallery about roads a second ago, as far as how bad some of our, roads and enrollments are. And this has been, and so COG went out and did a survey as far as the receptiveness of the public for a sales tax to support road maintenance, and that's all it's been about. It's not that COG is planning on doing its own sales tax measure, no matter what the city and the county are doing. We represent the Board of Supervisors on COG. You tell us, as representatives of to that agency, what we should be doing. And I haven't heard where we've taken a position that COG go out, get a sales tax, and put together a program. That's not where it's at. We're just trying to find a mechanism how we go forward.
To address that.
To address
To
it.
address the problems that we have. Supervisor Munzer.
And I guess my spin on COG and this issue is last year, and I've said this before, last year it was all about getting Highway 25 back on the constraint list. Okay? And I jokingly said that with the 0.25% it'd take us 50 years, and that's not true. Because everybody's looking at raising the impact fee, which will go towards that. But it can't do it on a loan. All of our STIF money, is that the right term? All of our STIF money for the next X amount of years is committed to the 156 bypass. So that's not going to go to Highway 25. So to get Highway 25 on the constraint list, we need another source of funding. And the obvious one is a sales tax measure. COG did the survey. It seems to have a level of support at 0.5%, but we need to vet that out a little bit more at COG. And we know that a countywide tax on transportation will probably not fly if we just had Highway 25. Because the 156 bypass that Measure A did also had other components that brought the rest of the county into the support for it. And that's what we were looking at doing with the measure in either maintenance of the existing roads or special projects for certain areas of the county. I feel the level of support is there for that in the county. I feel if we start trying to dump libraries, parks, anything else onto it at this time, is going to end up killing everything.
But then you're talking that we want to be specific, and if we are specific, then you're not talking a general sales tax.
Correct, because there is a level, COG, the small survey that they did, they could get the supermajority. But again, we need to vet that out. And what I was looking for today was the level of support of this board to go forward with that, get Highway 25 back on the constraining list, using a sales tax to do that, using the impact fees doing that. We saw an example of some more funding that the city is starting to throw out towards transportation that maybe 25 could become part of. It can't right now until we till we do this. How important is Highway 25 to this board? Do we want to support the effort to get it back on the constraining list, or are we diluting it with balancing our budget, doing parks, doing libraries, whatever else is going on here? I need to hear. I think Supervisor Patello is in the same boat. We need to hear from the other three members of this board where that level of support for Highway 25 and for COG going forward with doing the study on a sales tax for transportation for the whole county, both cities.
And my position is that I want to put the constraint, 25 back on the constraint list, but I also am realistic that if you just put Highway 25 on a measure, it's not going to happen.
We know that. We know
What
that.
I would like, the approach that I would like to take is that we do this county-wide so that we can get county-wide support and go at it for improvement of the quality of life for folks in San Benito County, which with an advisory group, and you add that as a question as part of the measure, is you add on the question, do you want to form a committee to address where this money's going to? And if we listen to the survey is going to be, the advisory is going to say, we want better roads. We may want more into the parks. We may want more into the library. But it's about quality of life. So you can do it all, I believe, if you do it countywide, gain the support of everybody, and it meets the needs of different, it's more diverse. And I believe that if you have diversity, you're going to get the support of the community. If you don't have diversity, people in the city are going to say, you know what, Highway 25 matters not to us, possibly. And so we don't know that, and I think that that's where the countywide will be more beneficial to us and more of an opportunity for it to pass. With a tax sharing agreement that COG benefits, Highway 25 benefits, the city benefits, City of San Juan, City of Hollister, and the county. So that's my position on it. Supervisor De La Cruz.
Madam Chair, I'm 100% with you in your position, and I want to make sure that number one for me is public works. We got to repair the public works that our citizens drive on those roads today, and Highway 25. Both. And I support more public roads, but Highway 25 on there too.
Right.
And with the countywide sales tax, I also believe that we could address some of those facilities needs, parks, and hopefully the library gets some funding and other avenues too. So I guess my response to you, Supervisor Munzer, is that and because I support Supervisor, our chair, Madam Chair, we support public roads, and we support highway, and we support COG, and we also support the concept of a countywide, and also support of facilities like the parks and the library.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, Supervisor Rivas?
Yeah, I think it's easy to come up here and say we support X, Y, Z, but the challenge is actually making a decision. And so I think, as important as Highway 25 is to everybody, I just don't think it's realistic. I mean, I honestly don't think it's realistic, and I would like to see those funds go to improving the quality of life in other areas in our county. And so, as far as moving forward on, a sales tax, I really don't know. I have to do some more research to see what the best strategy is. I mean, I think it makes absolute sense to do this community-wide effort. But at the same time, I don't trust Hollister. I don't trust the city of Hollister. And I think that they've had 2 1% taxes passed and approved, and I think, in my opinion, as a city resident and as a voter, they have fallen short in my expectations and what they were going to use that money for. And so partnering with them is something that I would prefer not to do. But like I said, this is something that I've got to sit down and really research and talk to other members in the community whose opinions I value. To see what the best approach is. But, at this point, I'd have to say that I still prefer to do an unincorporated only. And I think that, the politics behind it, whether we think it can win or not, I mean, like I said, I don't know. It's just going to take us going out there and talking to residents and talking to voters and trying to educate them to let them know why this is important for our community. So. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, thank you. And so, Sarah, I think what you're hearing is that we're a divided board right now, and but we have to know the facts. And fact number one is that a short term, an end to the sales tax, has been more successful in other counties. So I had initially thought that one in perpetuity would be great because roads are forever, but those don't appear to be as voters don't appear to be as comfortable. They want to see them sunset. So that's a fact that we think 7 years is probably a good timeline for people. Fact number 2 is that we know that this community is wanting better roads. That is, after the survey that was taken, we do know that that's what they want. Fact number 3 is that these things don't pass unless the community gets behind it, unless you get a committee. So no matter which direction we decide to go, those 3 things probably have to happen. Is that we already know what they are, but we need the community to form some sort of ahead of the ballot, ahead of it going to the voters. They have to be behind it and pushing it in whatever form, whether it be town meetings, presenting to service clubs, Rotary, Business Council, Chamber of Commerce. All of those folks have to come on board and have representatives in there that say, yes, this is good for the quality of life for San Benito County. We're on board. We're going to help you pass it. That is what's going to know. So no matter which way we go, that's a given. So now we have to decide which way we're going to go. And it doesn't sound like we're ready to do that. So.
And I do want to add, Supervisor Rivas, you should be able to use some of the projections on page 2, at least for overall general. A 1% countywide would be 5.6 million to 6.4 million. The split of that depends on that tax share agreement. So you should be able to use some of this information as you're kind of digesting it to determine what's worth it. In the upcoming meetings, I hope Public Works and the County Admin Office has been working on trying to prioritize capital improvement projects based on criteria like public safety, legal mandates, quality of life kind of things, to really allow you the information you need to really prioritize all the things that the departments are saying we need. And that ranges from paint on cars to new cars, upgrades, carpeting, painting, tons of things that probably couldn't, are deferred maintenance versus real true capital improvement projects. But we are looking to provide that information for you so you can really understand what the impact is of the money from the sales tax revenue. Because the answer is, as Supervisor Munzer has said, that it's not the whole solution. Impact fees need to be worked on. Financing is going to be inevitable at some point for some of the bigger building projects. So I hope this will help at least for now, and more information will follow. Didn't expect a decision because it is a lot of information. I'm available to provide more and come to the board meeting, so I can guess that there's not going to be an ad hoc committee. I'll report to intergovernmental this week.
Yeah.
And just, it's good to know at least the points you confirmed that is short term. I don't know if the whole board agrees with the short term, that roads are wanted and a community committee is needed prior. That was the wishes of the chair. Don't know if we need a motion.
And that a short term is going to be more likely to pass than
Right.
something in perpetuity. Supervisor Patella?
Yeah, I have a hard time doing the perpetuity
Yeah,
concept. But I am still a Republican, last time I checked anyway. And that's why I get real nervous about tax increases unless we are very specific. And we're running out of time. I'm sometimes a little bit concerned, Supervisor Munzer stated it just perfect, on how COG has kind of evolved on this issue, and that was completely accurate, and our interest about Highway 25. And sometimes I feel like I'm being snookered into Highway 25. I don't see it as being the greatest road need right now. Maybe in 10 years from now, it will be a tremendous need. But right now, I feel like there's a developer out there that is just snookering us into it, having all the other developers in development in the city and the county pay for something that they should be paying for. And there's, again, sticking their nose into some projects that we are currently under again. And I just want to warn this board and warn this community that that could be part of this. My big focus is getting additional revenues, which again the state is cutting back on this year because of the decrease in gas tax for road maintenance. And we should probably, consider maybe the discussion at intergovernmental, whether there should be a joint meeting between the city councils to hammer this thing out, because we're amidst this deadline, 2016, whether it's in June or November. Time is real short to get the message out and get, support and educate the public.
Right. Why don't we narrow it down? We already know through the intergovernmental that the city of San Juan Bautista and the city of Hollister are on board to do a county-wide tax. They're on board. And they're willing to talk about a tax sharing agreement. Can we at least narrow it down?
Madam Chair, the councils or the members of the intergovernmental?
The members of the they were
That's
already
not
going
That's
to
not their councils?
No, they were
Okay.
already, the direction was given, just like we're doing now. The direction was given to them to go to their respective councils and to talk about it and see if they have support of their entire group. Okay, so with that, not knowing what the result of that is at this time, could we narrow it down to at least find out if there's a consensus that we do this countywide? At least narrow it down to that. And Supervisor Patello, what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts at the moment with the information that's in front of me right now, and my concern that I have for, it going to 9.5 to the city of Hollister and San Juan, I would do the unincorporated only.
Okay, so you would be only unincorporated?
Right.
Okay, and just like Supervisor Rivas?
And I reserve the right to change my mind
No, I
later on.
understand.
That's the caviar.
Okay.
Eureka.
And, Supervisor Munzer, what are your thoughts?
My thought is I'm not ready to decide on anything. I came in here looking for support to allow COG to run
Right.
forward, and that is the way I'm leaning. but I think I need more information before I can make a decision.
Okay. So then, I know where your position is, Supervisor De La Cruz, you and I are together on this,
And, you know, I do prefer to do this county alone, but, you know, I certainly don't want to stifle any type of dialogue between the city or, you know, maybe they'll say something that will woo me, and I want to go at this, you know, as a team approach.
Well,
But, you
well,
know,
okay, well, that's good. We have a meeting on Thursday with intergovernmental. We will probably have to have a special meeting so that we don't have to just drag this on. Time is of the essence here. So if we can have good information from the intergovernmental on Thursday, and then we can set up a special meeting to really hash it out a little bit more, then I think we'll be better able to make a decision at that time. Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good, Madam Chair.
Do we want to hear COG? Do we want COG to come up at this time and just talk about their thoughts? Pardon? Okay, yeah, I will open it up to public comment as well, for sure. I'm sorry, CAO Espinosa?
No problem. I did have a question. Supervisor Munzer had said you needed more information. What information would help you making this decision so administration can look at gathering more information?
Well, I guess I'm concerned because there is no citizens committee formed at this point.
Right.
There is no tax sharing agreement. COG already has a citizens committee formed. COG is so far out ahead of us. They've done a survey. They're so far out ahead of us on the rest of this. My support is at this time for 2016, let COG run with this. Let's get some money for our roads. You know, and again, we keep going back to Highway 25, but Highway 25 is a part of it, but it's not the lion's share of it. It's going to do our roads. I think we're just going to convolute everything if we try to expand this. We're having time struggling, understanding this, and we're involved in this. How are we selling this to the community in general without everything in place that COG already has in place?
I want to ask about the Citizens Committee. I wasn't aware of that. I really would like to hear a little bit more about that.
If you want to have Mary come up.
Yeah. Sarah, well, let's make sure that, Sarah, do you have anything else that you need to present to us at this time before you?
I think I'm okay. I would agree about, I assumed, I apologize that we were in agreement that COG was moving forward and ahead because of my conversations with Mary. I had just been more aware, and I assumed. I apologize, so that's why the scenarios
No,
looked
that's
as they
okay.
did.
I think all of us are a little bit, perplexed and wondering how we're going to go. So thank you for the presentation. Mary?
Good morning, thank you. So with regard to the Citizens Advisory Committee, COG established a committee to really start talking about Highway 25. And I think we met first back in October and invited some members of the community that were identified by the COG board, some different interests. So we've continued those meetings monthly, pretty much. And really the focus of that group became not so much Highway 25, but we wanted to talk about other transportation needs in the
I
community.
attended the first meeting.
Yes, you did, yes.
But I
yes,
never
out
thought
of
about it
Public
as a
Works.
community, what did you call it, Supervisor Munzer?
Well, just
A citizens
Citizens Committee, right. And so that's kind of our first opportunity that we've had to really speak
Right,
to, some individuals and get ideas about what are some goals. And of course, we're focusing on transportation there. And the discussion that I've had is with, we have a kind of an advisory consultant on board who's helping facilitate those meetings. And we just recently had a discussion that we really need to expand that group, and hopefully get some more input. But the core group that we have working with us is interested in a sales tax and also the traffic impact fee, so all the items that you've been talking about this morning.
So your Citizens Committee is supporting a sales tax?
After excuse me, go ahead.
Yeah, a sales tax, not a special tax.
I think our conversation really had been more toward a special tax, and they received the same presentation that you had on the poll results that we had. So so that's kind of just, and that's just our very first initial step with that group, was showing those results and saying, hey, you know, we think that we may be able to move forward and get support for a special tax that would help pay for roads, with a portion going to Highway 25. So
Okay, so yours would be inclusive of all county roads, Highway 25.
Absolutely.
And maybe anything else, but it would be a special tax specific, and it would take a two-thirds?
Two-thirds majority. Yes, yes.
And you think that with the survey that you've done, that it's doable?
Right now, I mean, you know, we were pleased with the 75% approval rating in the survey. Of course, more work to be done, and we'd have to establish an expenditure plan. So that would be the work that would be, you know, going on over the next
And how
5 to 6
long,
months.
are you talking 5 years, 7 years?
I think we had said a 20-year tax, actually, in our polling question, half-cent tax
For
for 20 years.
rather than a 1% for 7 years?
Right,
Okay.
yes, yes.
Mary, thank you. Any
You're welcome.
questions of Mary? Okay. I'll open it up to the public. So please, public, come up and talk about this.
Hi, I'm Leslie Austin. I'm from Aromas, and I just have a quick question for you, Mary. Can you talk about the COGS Citizen Committee? Who are the representatives of that committee? Are they representatives from all the districts in the county, or are there specific representatives for, I don't know, specific districts?
Okay, Mary, if you could come up, please. And please, when you come up to the podium, you need to address the board, and then through the board, then we will ask the questions that you need. Thank you.
Sure. You know, the group, again, was established initially with the interest of Highway 25. So we targeted membership, through the COG board, we targeted membership of folks that we knew may have interest in the Highway 25 project through previous work that we'd done, previous outreach and that kind of thing, and really trying to, you know, get different interests represented, but again, with Highway 25. So to answer the question, no, we did not specifically go out, you know, geographically or regionally looking in each district, and certainly that is something that as we evolve the group, if we are moving forward with a sales tax, we would absolutely want to do to get more coverage, I guess you could say, for that.
And Mary, are you considering a June or November
That would still be,
ballot?
you know, to be determined. Our survey results showed that a June ballot may be something that would be possible, and the November ballot being the presidential election, there's probably going to be a lot of initiatives and other things, you know, that folks have to vote on, and so, you know, June may be a little less cluttered, basically, on the ballot, and so we might actually see success there. So, you know, leaving that open in our work plan, depending, again, on what the COG board eventually decides, you know, we may go forward with, we would consider going forward with a June.
With a June.
June question, yes.
And will you be at the intergovernmental meeting on
Absolutely.
Thursday? Okay.
Yes, that'll
So
be
that'll
there.
give the entire intergovernmental a little more information, so that maybe that day we can come up with a little, with a solid recommendation from that group. So in hopes that the other, that the cities have met with their councils and have agreed on something at that level. So, Mary, thank you.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Any other comments from the public?
When do I get my own microphone?
You're not, Marty?
Up here. I'll have to come with a little
You're
ADA
not.
sign. Marty Richard from Hollister. I think everybody knows where I stand on this. You know, I simply don't get it. This whole discussion is predicated on the fact that you can't get 50% of the people who live in the unincorporated area to vote for a general sales tax. That's ridiculous. We can't get 50%, but Supervisor Botello says, well, the roads are worse in Aromas. I doubt if the roads in Aromas are worse than the roads in Hollister down on Hawkins Street. I'm not even sure we got, and we may have to close it. People may not be able to drive. Let's give them a chance to step up and be a man, a mensch, as they call it. You don't have to be a male to be a mensch in Yiddish. Be a man. Let's give the folks in the unincorporated areas stand up and get even with the rest of us. Let's ask them to pass a general sales tax. It only takes 50%, and then you'll have $2.5 to $3 million, and you can give it to anybody you want. You want to give it all to the roads? Give it all to the roads. Who cares? It's your money then. You can do whatever you want with it. And if the year after that you decide the roads are in good shape, you got a big problem somewhere else, you can take that $2.5 million, use it wherever you want. It's your money. I don't understand why we're going through this. Let's get even first. I think I agree with Supervisor Rivas that it should be an unincorporated area. I agree with Supervisor Botello that 9.5% is a killer. Okay, and I think the idea of doing it with COG on the recommendation of some committee that only went in there on 25 and all of a sudden expanded what they were going to do doesn't make any sense because they don't represent anybody or anything. They're not district-wide, they're not anything. As far as 25 goes, there's a couple of issues. Number one, we all know the truth is you don't actually have the tax in place to get on the constraint list. So let's stop fooling ourselves. Monterey's had stuff on the constraint list forever with no tax in place. All you have to do is say, someday, somehow, I'm going to put a tax in there. That's number one. Number two is, if we only do it to fake ourselves out because we're never going to be able to pay for it, to get something on the list, then why bother with that? Why not just put it on the impact fees? I have no problem with that. Supervisor Botello thinks he's being rooked by the developers. Put it all on the impact fees. What do I care? That's what they're for. I mean, I've read the regulations. There's no reason we can't do that. As far as the library capital goes, I back the library, but as far as library capital goes, I've been begging for a library impact fee for 2 years almost. We haven't done anything on that as far as I know. Maybe you guys are doing something in secret that I don't know anything about.
You'd know, Marty.
But I don't get it. You should be doing it. Thank you for the 3 minutes. By the way, if you don't want the anti-tax people to win, burn this tape. This whole entire meeting, not this place.
Thank you, Marty. Any other comments from the public? Okay, I'll bring it back to the board. And it looks like we're not ready to do anything at this point, which is okay, because that's a lot of information, and we really need to. So we'll leave this item, knowing that we're going to have an intergovernmental meeting, knowing that we'll probably have a special meeting, and if we can have a joint meeting, that would be even better. So,
Yeah, let's do that.
okay?
That's a lot better.
Very good.
Yeah,
All
and
right.
we do have to burn the tape.
Okay, item number, let's see, where are we?
33.
Item number 33.
Yes, so we have Sarah, this is Sarah's day today. Sarah Fontana's here. She's going to be presenting to your board item number 33, and this is regards to the landfill and reviewing, actually appointing an ad hoc committee to review the 2015 COLA and change in law cost for waste connections. So, Sarah?
Yes, so it is sort of that simple. It is an ad hoc, hoping to have that created in place so that I can have a meeting as soon as possible with those two individuals to discuss recommendations and what's going on surrounding that. As you know, Mandy Rose did retire in February. There's also other work being done, just as an update, of having someone with 18-plus years of integrated waste management consulting experience. So they're helping assist with that information, as long as with the oversight of Joe Horwittle. So I'll be working with those two, hopefully created, and provide them all the information, and then report back with the specifics and more specifics and updates on what's going on with that department.
Yeah, and what it does is, because I've been on that ad hoc committee before, is that what it entails is knowing what the costs are, and if there is an opportunity to either save the public money or actually add additional dollars to their fees.
Right.
I think what we have done is we've done a hybrid before, where we were able to take part of the monies that is earned and raise the fees slightly. And this was, 2 years ago?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
So that's basically what it is. So do I have anybody that has a real interest in serving on this committee? I'd like to do it again as the chair, so,
Jerry probably wants to do it.
okay, then it would be Supervisor Munzer and myself.
Thank you. I'd be honored to
I figured you would be. So, okay,
hear the
Sarah, so
same
we'll
thing last year.
we'll be waiting to hear from you.
Sounds great.
Now, do we need to vote on this ad hoc committee, or is this a chair appointment? Chair appointment, okay, so Supervisor Munzer and I will be part of that.
Beautiful.
It's a
Thank you.
tremendous amount of wisdom there, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Tons and tons of years.
Okay, item number 34, and that is CAO Espinosa. If you could introduce that, please.
Thank you. Yes, this is coming out of our planning department. We have Byron Turner here to read the title of the ordinance for the record, an ordinance adjusting the codification of articles within Chapter 25.29 of Title 25 of the San Benito County Code, and accept the introduction. Waive further reading of the ordinance and continue to May 19, 2015 at 9 a.m. for adoption. So, Byron?
Yeah, this is just a cleanup. When we've adopted a couple of ordinances this past year, both temporary and permanent, regarding tree preservation and petroleum operations. And County Council identified that some renumbering needed to be done. So therefore, it is the recommendation that the board, number one, read the title of the ordinance for the record, an ordinance adjusting the codification of articles within Chapter 25.29 of Title 25 of the San Benito County Code. And number two, make a motion to accept the introduction, waive further reading of the ordinance, and continue the matter to May 19th, 2015 at 9 a.m. for adoption. I'm here for any questions, and also Barbara can answer anything that you have as well.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of Byron at this time? In the ordinance, the wording doesn't change, all it does is the numbering.
the numbering,
is all
yeah.
that is changing. Okay, any questions? Okay, any items, comments from the public? Okay, I'll bring it back to the board for a vote.
Madam, I would move that we read the title of the ordinance for the record, an ordinance adjusting the codification of articles within Chapter 25.29 of Title 25 of the San Benito County Code. Make a motion and accept the introduction, waive further reading of the ordinance, and continue the matter to May 19, 2015 at 9 o'clock for adoption.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'll be voting for it only because it's strictly just number change, so. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we have about 10 more minutes, well, actually less than 10 minutes. I think we want to go ahead and move on this item. Do I have a consensus to continue now and then go into closed session? We only have one item, and then we'll break for lunch and we'll be done for the day. Is that okay?
As long as we can direct the deputy county clerk to set the timer for 10 minutes?
Okay, you bet. All right, we'll continue. Well, I'll first of all ask CAO Espinosa to introduce it.
Yeah, we have our Public Works Interim Director, Joe Hordell, and he's going to be discussing item 35 for us. Joe?
Thank you. So today is the next step in moving forward with the Hospital Road Bridge, and it's helping to acquire real estate or the right-of-way for the bridge. We're asking the board to receive testimony from the property owner for the piece of property we're looking for. It's about 16,000 feet, and then we're asking to conduct a hearing for resolution of necessity, and it's because we've not been able to clear title with the property owner. They've agreed to sell us the land, but there are some clouds that we have not been able to resolve, and so this would be the process to clear that, and then adopting a resolution of necessity to allow us to commence actually going through the more formal acquisition process for the bridge. So we're available for questions and not wanting to chew up the 10 minutes.
Any questions, any comments? Comments from the public? Okay, bring it back to the board for
Madam Chair,
decision.
you should probably formally open up the public hearing.
Thank you so much. I forgot that this is a public hearing, so I'll open up the public hearing and ask the public for any comments at this time. There being none, I will close the public hearing. Thank you, council. And bring it back for a decision of this board.
Okay. Can we make the motion just staff recommendation? Do we have to read anything?
You can just do staff recommendation.
Okay, I make the motion for staff recommendation.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, at this time, we're going to go to closed session. We only have one item. And council, if you could read that, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. The Board of Supervisors will now adjourn in closed session to discuss agenda item number 36 on today's agenda. That item is to meet in closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54957B1 regarding a public employee performance evaluation of the county council.
Okay, any comments from the public?
Yes, thank you. I'll be brief.
Okay.
In my dealings with Mr. Granger, he's always been ultra-professional. He's always, I believe he's always protected the board, which is his first duty. That's unfortunate sometimes from my point of view, but he has, and he's always taken the time to explain the law to me and the rules, and not take a side politically, but I think he's a good representative of the board, and I appreciate his help. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty. Anybody else from the public on this closed session item? Okay, we'll go ahead and go to closed session and come back and report
Uh-oh.
out.
Might be fired.
Thank you.